Welcome to episode 126 of the Grip Strip Podcast, the Points and Health edition of the Grip Strip Podcast. My name is Philip Matthew. I'm here with my co-host Josh Fine. What's going on, man?
Hey, I'm doing great, Phil. We had a really interesting weekend of racing, and I think, it was a lot of good racing, but then for the first time in a while, we had a winner in the NASCAR Cup Series get disqualified, and a lot of other interesting things have happened since then. So, we got a lot to talk about tonight.
The first time I think in over 60 years that a winner in a Cup Series race was disqualified. There have been other instances where people have been penalized after winning a race and, points and money or something, like Richard Petty in the 83 Charlotte fall race when they had the big motor, which ended up being was win number 198 of his career, which was essentially the end of Petty Enterprises, or the original group, the trio of himself, his cousin Dale Inman, and his brother Maurice. But we'll get into all that since Dennis Hamlin had on Sunday afternoon tied Tony Stewart with 49 career Cup Series wins and became the all-time winningest driver at the racetrack with 7 wins. His teammate Kyle Busch had qualified on pole on Saturday and was up front early in the race. Didn't have a good car in the second half. Then he had a rough first half of the race, came back in the second, but it was all for naught. The two Toyotas did not pass post-race inspection, which seemed to be a trend, not passing inspection and having serious issues with the new car at Pocono Raceway. Great crowd there. Even in the over 100-degree temperatures. I thought about going, but I think better judgment and health got in the way of that. Our friend Joe Passero went with his father. He'll be on next week, filling in for Josh, since Josh gets to go on vacation. Lucky guy. I don't know what a vacation is, so I'm kind of jealous, but at the end of the day, I think I'll get one later in the year. So we'll work for that. Yeah, so we got plenty to talk about in the Cup side, all the stuff that happened after the race, which saw William Clyde Elliott take the win conveniently and get his 4th win of the year. Gagson held off Keebler Gibbs in Xfinity. Chandler Smith went and pretty much dominated the truck race and really put himself in position possibly in the battle of the Smiths to possibly win a Truck Series championship this year. Gained a ton of ground on Zane Smith, who was a regular season champion. Joseph Newgarden won on Saturday in the IndyCars, dominated, was on track to do it again on Sunday at one of his best racetracks. Had a rare incident, wrecked the car, got out. They were checked and released, but only to have a fainting spell outside of his trailer and having to be airlifted to a local hospital. So now there's a possibility the former 2-time series champion and one of the winningest active drivers in our sport in the IndyCar series could be out of this weekend's race at the Indianapolis road course, which would in turn take him out of the championship likely. Hopefully Joseph will be fine. We ran into that with Kurt Busch on Sunday where he didn't pass concussion protocols and couldn't race. Of course, we'll get into all that. Pato Award was a beneficiary, so we'll talk about both those races and the points getting into Indianapolis. Verstappen wins after Charles Leclerc has a stuck throttle issue, which seems to be a trend now for Ferrari. Gave away that win. He was quite distraught. The primordial yell that he let off on the radio was basically the yell of a guy who knew that the championship's done. And when you're 68 points behind in the Drivers' Championship, you pretty much are done. And nearly 2 races out in the Constructors. They're battling Mercedes since Mercedes finished 2nd and 3rd on Sunday, with Ferrari stepping on themselves. So Verstappen wins solidifies what likely is going to be his first legitimate championship. I mean, I know there's half a season to go, but it's Formula One. The battle, I think, the more interesting battle is to see what Mercedes is able to do against Ferrari, and if Lewis can win a pole and win a race to continue his streak that he's had his whole entire career. Getting all the Formula One stuff, since they'll be racing that was the French Grand Prix. They'll be racing in Hungary this weekend before their summer break. The roundup will discuss F2 and W Series at Ricard, and then add Hungary for this week for Formula 3, first time in a while for them since Britain, the British Grand Prix. Formula E will be in London. Supercars at the Bend. World Superbikes will be back in the Czech Republic. The Truck Series playoffs will start at Indianapolis Raceway Park, or Lucas Oil Raceway Park, or O'Reilly Raceway Park, or whatever the hell their name is, Raceway Park. First time they've been there in years. It's great to see a classic track that was originally a part of the Truck Series and was an original racetrack for the Xfinity Series back on the calendar. Hopefully Xfinity goes back there too. Cup and Xfinity will be at Indianapolis Road Course this weekend to go and race with the IndyCar Series. So IndyCars and Xfinity will race on Saturday. Cup will race on Sunday. Formula One will race, of course, at Hungary, as I mentioned earlier. We'll get into some NFL talk since training camp has opened. Josh's Jacksonville Jaguars have a lot of positive momentum. Trevor Lawrence seems much happier about the world. You have a Super Bowl winning head coach as well. Niners have a new quarterback and a lot of positive energy there. The Deebo Samuel saga notwithstanding, and some of the other extensions that might be coming along the way. But training camp's open. Football time is coming. Fantasy football time. We're getting there. My friends and I, we have our chat, like the three of us, and we're talking about a best ball league. So that time is getting here. It's the end of July. Josh will talk about the sim side, iRacing, and other sims like with Formula One and et cetera, in the sim segment. We'll call it a day. But NASCAR kept us busy and has kept us busy all through the last, I think, 4 or 5 days. Josh, the Pocono M&M's Fan Appreciation 400 at Pocono Raceway was probably the most well-attended Pocono race in a long time. I mean, frankly, TV doesn't do it justice in regards to crowd size. The place is huge. They usually have a good crowd anyway, but this year they had a great crowd, a lot of sold-out camping, suites, had a lot of specials, a lot of things for fans to do, whether it was the M&M's deal to see old M&M's drivers like Ernie Irvan, Kenny Schrader, essentially every M&M's driver that wasn't Elliott Sadler, which makes me laugh. But they had that. They had the Hendrick Motorsports. I think they had a Hendrick Motorsports ticket package where you get to meet those drivers. They had a Daniel Suarez, like a selfie thing. They had all kinds of activation and fan experience stuff. So even though it was ridiculously hot, if you went there, I think you probably had a good time. But the race itself wasn't bad. A lot of action. Denny Hamlin won the race on the racetrack, but he didn't win the race when it counted. Got DQ'd for a front fascia infraction, both himself and Kyle Busch, who led but the two of them led 84 of the 160 laps, so over half the race was led by those two cars. And the other subtext to that is Denny Hamlin got into Ross Chastain and put him in the wall coming off of turn one. And Ross was quite sheepish about that in the aftermath. Basically assumes that it's the end. But the way that Horseface Hamlin is acting, I don't think that's the end of it for him.
I don't think Chastain thinks it's the end either. I feel like he thinks there might be more coming, but he doesn't know yet.
Yeah, that's a good point there. I mean, there's a lot to get into. I mean, I guess let's just take it from the top with the fact that those two cars were the two best cars on the racetrack, and then Chastain might have been the third. Josh, and he the those three cars. I mean, the Toyotas have been fast at certain racetracks and have been very dominant. And you had most of the Toyotas qualified in the top 10 as well. I mean, Bell was just outside the top 10. Bubba Wallace, Martin Truex qualified in the top 10. The 45 car was a top 10 car. Uh, Kurt Busch crashed in second round qualifying and jacked the car up, concussion, out of the race. They called Keebler back. Never driven a cup car in a race before, and finished 16th in his cup debut, which is great, honestly, considering the lack of experience in that car. But it it puts all the wheels in motion about what Keebler's going to end up doing here shortly. I mean, let's take it from there with the Toyota side and what they did on Sunday before we get into the penalties, Josh.
Yeah, I mean it's all about them cheating Yoders. No, I mean they had a lot of speed on Sunday, and at first it looked like the Toyotas with Kyle Busch, Martin Truex, and Bubba Wallace. They were up front for I think the beginning portion of that race, the first quarter, I believe of that race, and then kind of after the first stage, strategy started to play into hand, and you saw Bubba Wallace try a different strategy. Kyle Busch managed to stay up front, I think, and so did Chris Bell as well, along with Kyle Busch and Martin Truex. And then on the other hand, you had Denny Hamlin, who hit the wall pretty early on in that race, and then later on spun out in the tunnel turn, and then still managed to come back and make his way up to the front and win the race. And when we all thought he was going to win, and then the rest of it, Kyle Busch, he was able to make his way back up to second place, and I thought it was going to be a little bit of a battle between Kyle Busch and Denny Hamlin, but Kyle Busch, he was closing within about 6/10 within the last 10 laps of the race, but I think he just couldn't run a better line than Denny Hamlin. It seemed like Hamlin had a good tunnel turn, whereas Kyle Busch may have had a good turn 3 and turn 1, but you had to really make a lot of time in the tunnel turn, and he just couldn't get the corner exit on that particular corner there. So, Denny Hamlin goes out, gets the initial victory, of course, and then we hear about the penalty and first disqualification of a winner in over 60 years, and we talk about winners being disqualified. I think that's something that NASCAR fans have wanted to see. I mean, not wanted to see, but it's clear. Like when we think that there's a car that's clearly cheated up. Go back to when Jimmy Johnson was dominating for years, and people thought his cars were cheated up. Jeff Gordon, et cetera, et cetera, and now we finally see this, and it's been. I guess you have to say that it's at some point it was going to come, especially after NASCAR in 2019. They decided that they were going to take the disqualifications a lot seriously, or more seriously, in NASCAR, and especially in the Cup Series. And it's took 3 years for it to happen, but now we finally get a winner disqualified, and it's pretty interesting to see. And Denny Hamlin's of course acting very smug about it, and showing off the trophy while drinking the winner's champagne. And I guess Chase Elliott gets the victory on paper, and sure, he's gonna probably just let Denny keep that trophy for himself there. So it's a lot to take in there, especially with the way things played down. After the race, and Denny Hamlin's daughter was very emotional and thought Denny had the win, but then a couple hours later, it's all gone away. So this is pretty interesting storyline, because they thought that this penalty, like whatever penalties might come of this, possibly taking away playoff points or stripped of a victory. We've seen that in the past, even with the winner keeping the win. Go back to Carl Edwards at Atlanta 2008 when they modified the oil tank and they basically lost the points from that, and that affected them in their playoff seeding that year. So I would have expected something like that, and remember hearing rumors about like the potentially NASCAR actually taking away their playoff seed entirely, so they would no longer be in the playoffs. So I guess that's always on the table. But of course, they just end up getting disqualified. But that wasn't the only penalty, of course, on that came about on Sunday. So yeah, this was just a tumultuous event, series of event that happened this race. And we haven't even really gotten into the Ross Chastain deal there with Denny Hamlin as well.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get into that in a minute. I want to give some more context. So, going in off of Dustin Long from NBC Sports, his post race recap, he goes and he reported the AP. So, he got it from the AP. So, Frier's bitch ass. Last time disqualified apparent winner, April 17, 1960. When Emmanuel Zervakis victory at Wilson Speedway, North Carolina, was thrown up because of an oversized fuel tank. So Josh talking about oversized oil tank, oversized fuel tank. Here, Joe Weatherly was the beneficiary of that. Joe Weatherly was one of the more popular drivers back in his day, legend. So it's kind of interesting how the most popular driver in NASCAR benefited here in this spot. The penalty itself, based on there was Wally Brown from Joe Gibbs Racing. This is reported on Jayski. In our review of the post-race infractions on the 11-18 cars at Pocono, it was discovered that a single piece of clear tape was positioned over each of the lower corners of the front fascia ahead of the left front and right front wheel openings. On both those cars, the added pieces were 2 inches wide and 5.5 inches long, with a thickness of 12 thousandths of an inch, and installed under the wrap. This change in our build process was not properly vetted within our organization. We recognize it is against NASCAR rules. Apologize to everyone for this mistake, and we've made changes to our processes to ensure it does not happen again. Okay, so that leads into the point. I mean, we're going to get into the other penalties. We're going to get into the Ross Chastain stuff too, for sure. But the notion that they passed initial inspection, they passed a pre-race inspection, and raced all day for 400 miles. Of course, there was heat and whatever. There was no issue with the cars, and they're all built. Every Toyota in the field is built out of Joe Gibbs Racing, essentially. So, to me, I get, you had Denny Hamlin, Kyle Busch, the 2 dominant cars, but every Toyota was fast. So why aren't you going and inspecting all the other ones? At that point, you might as well just go up the ladder. If you're telling me those 2 cars had an illegal thing, why are you don't want me to believe that frickin' the 45 car had illegal crap? The only reason they wouldn't is because they had to get a backup car out. So maybe they didn't install that on there. But you're telling me the 19, 20, and the 23 didn't have something going on with that? Like what they didn't tell us really what the hell the penalty was. They were not transparent about it. Whoever the idiot they sent out to talk on Sunday wasn't transparent about it. Then they sent Scott Miller's stupid ass out there, and he just did his usual crap. My problem with this is, yeah, fine. Yeah, we need to penalize but go and say what the infraction is, what the rule, what it was, and be clear. You can't go and call, if you're going to DQ, and it's like, oh, we're DQ'd them. They didn't have the, like, you know why you DQ'd them. Don't go and give platitudes and go and beat around the bush. You give us the rule in the rule book, and then give the journalists and whoever a chance to dig in. So then when Wally Brown makes his statement, that gives a little more context to it. Then on top of it, if you're NASCAR and you want to go and show since they became all of a sudden they're the wild. They've been the wild west most of the season. They went after Brad and buried him essentially. Now in the face of about 5 days, they've penalized three different organizations. At that point, why don't you just go and start inspecting all those other cars and tell them you need to send the cars you had at Pocono to the R&D center if you really want to go and get a hold of some of these things? Because Petty GMS is an RCR affiliate, and both their cars have the rocker box issue, and that basically kills Eric Jones's chances unless he wins. And even if he wins, it may not be enough. Michael McDowell today with Blake Harris, who's a what do you call? He used to be the right hand man for Cole Pern at the 78 Furniture Row. Martin Truex went with Cole Pern to Joe Gibbs Racing, was there for a long time. He's also married to sexy Caitlin Vinci. He's made that 34. He's made Michael McDowell look like a decent driver. So the guy deserves a Medal of Honor just for that. Not just for the fact he gets to be with Caitlin Vinci for the rest of his life and he's procreated with her, but the fact that he somehow or another made Michael McDowell look like a decent driver. And they just went and gave them the death penalty too. So now, all of a sudden, where did this come from? That is it because these teams are starting to push the envelope, Josh, or is it that NASCAR decided now we're gonna put the hammer down right here a month like before the regular season ends, and if people were trying to skirt some of these areas, which to be fair, after what happened to Brad and RFK, I'm not sure you really wanted to be skirting with anything that involves this car. It to me, I don't understand it. I mean, it fits the thing. You know, we've been friends for all these years, and you know the hashtags I always love with NASCAR, consistently inconsistent and selective enforcement. And yeah, nailing Joe Gibbs Racing makes it look like you're trying to handle stuff, but you didn't take points away from them. You didn't take away 100 points, suspend their crew chiefs. You didn't take 50 point, whatever. You gave Petty GMS a penalty, points penalty, took his crew chief and all that. And you basically buried Michael McDowell and FRM to purgatory. But why not Joe Gibbs? How does Joe Gibbs have two cars that are illegal, but the rest of them are legal? Because you didn't bother to inspect all of those. And you're going to tell me those cars are illegal? They all have the same shit. They make the cars in the same place. You're going to tell me it makes no fucking sense. It's typical NASCAR. It's why it's like I don't give it the time that I used to. There's no fucking way that I mean, I'm a Bubba guy. I don't want to see him get freaking sent to 34th. But come on, man. You want me to believe all those Toyotas don't have that on there? Keebler Gibbs's car definitely had to be cheated up. The motherfucker drove to 16th. He had an hour in a sim. Bastard's never driven the cup car before. And he drove up to effing 16th with a pit crew that's somewhat malfunctional. You know, malfunctional. I made a new word up. So, I mean, I don't know what your takes are on this, Josh, but it just irritates me. This whole, all of a sudden, now we're going to put the hammer down, but you're not really solving the problem. You're just beating around the bush and going after little teams instead of burying Hendrick and burying Gibbs, who are probably the two biggest offenders, probably, but they haven't done anything to Hendrick yet, conveniently. And their guy, their most popular driver, is the leading the points by 100 points and has 4 wins now.
Yeah, I mean, well, on Hendrick, I think Chase Elliott is probably locked up the regular season title there. That's probably enough to give him that with now, 4 wins and put a star by that, asterisk by that, because, this came by disqualification. But, I mean, for Gibbs, I mean, for one thing, it's probably not a good idea to put all the eggs in one basket when it comes to cheating like this, because, if they all get caught like that, then they would probably get a huge penalty like what NASCAR, they would find the entire organization and take away all their points, and they can't put all your risk into one basket with all the cars being cheated up. So you probably, I don't know I'm just speculating here, pure speculation, but you can't have
The
all
two
the
cars that have wins, that have
that's true, but
locked up spots, they can take more risk.
yeah, they can take more risk. Yeah, they can take more risk on where being able to have their cars cheated up, I guess. Whereas Bubba Wallace can't afford. Obviously, he's probably gonna have to win his way into the playoffs, but he can't afford to lose any points here or anything like that, or get his winning car disqualified. Truex can't afford to get a disqualification because he's tight on points here, and Christopher Bell just won the previous week at New Hampshire, so you can't risk his points either, especially with the likelihood of getting two more winners into the playoffs, and he's only on one win. And if he gets a disqualification, then he'd be the lowest one out of the ones with the people with one win. So can't risk it all like that. So that's on one hand there, but on the other hand, you have they did not announce the penalty. Or what the rules infraction was, whereas with the announcement for petty GMS, and then today with front row motorsports penalties, they announced they had a L1 penalty for GMS, and then for the 34, they had a L3 penalty there, that's the harshest one. With 100 points to driver and owner points, so clearly, that's the harshest penalty, and they did not announce any further penalties for the 18 or the 11. Although you look at it the way that it is, basically with a disqualification, you get sent to the back, and so the 18 only earns 1 point, and the 11 only earns 2 points. So it's almost a net negative there, but on top of that, they don't get any fines or crew chief suspended or any further points penalties that would carry over into the next race. So there's a lot of inconsistency there, and you'd like to see exactly what rule they broke or whatever. But a lot of quality control issues on NASCAR's end, and I think in Gibbs' organization there with the penalties. But we've got a couple more races before the playoffs start, and I guess NASCAR has decided they've always ruled with the iron fist, and they just come around it whenever they feel like it. We got to remind the teams to not push the boundaries, and now we're seeing what that's looking like as we get closer to the playoff start, and it'll go on for the first 9 races of the playoffs, and the last race, of course, the 4 teams competing for the championship, they're going to be allowed a lot of leeway. And we've seen that in the past, and that's continue to be the case. And it would be interesting if an hour after the title is over, we hear NASCAR say that the 9 of Chase Elliott's been disqualified and has lost the championship, and
that won't happen.
Yeah, it wouldn't happen. But I'm just giving an example here, and with that, and then I don't know, Denny Hamlin was the championship or something. So that would be very interesting, and I highly doubt that would happen, especially with all 4 cars likely being cheated up in the championship finale.
Sorry, I'm putting the watch. I had it on charge here. Back on here. I don't get it at all. They haven't updated the overall points, because the points that they show are from Sunday. So the fact is, Michael McDowell is still 20th in points. So that can't be. If he has minus, and he has minus playoff points, he should lose whatever points. If it was, so he'd be 347. He would drop down behind Cole Custer based on if it's whatever 100 points and whatever. I mean, I'm just looking at the points right now. I mean, we could go over let's go over the results. So Michael McDowell actually finished 6th on Sunday. So he had 32 points. So those are all gone, plus another 68. So minus 68 off of, well, they gave him, that's for the 30. Yeah. So just, you take the 100. So it'd be 440. Yeah. So you'd be behind Cole Custer. Yeah. So basically he's fucked. Clyde wins Didn't lead a lap, but he won. Figure that out. Tyler Reddick in the Sheets car finishes second. Daniel Suarez finishes third, holding up Trackhouse Racing since his teammate had a car to win but didn't get a chance to. Christopher Bell finished fourth. Kyle Larson fifth. Won sprint cars, though. Michael McDowell, as I mentioned, sixth. Truex seventh. Bubba eighth. Eric Jones, after the penalties they got, finished ninth. And Bald Spot Dylan finished 10th. Other people who got stage points, Byron got stage points, finished 12th. Corey LaJoy got stage points in stage 1, finished 19th. Harvick got taken out in the wreck that Denny Hamlin and the Denny Hamlin Ross Chastain incident, and finished 27th. And Blaney got into that one, I believe, as well. Started sixth, got good stage points, basically to salvage his point situation for the day, but he finished 33rd, which was basically next to last. Josh Bilicki finished last officially, crashing out 35 laps into the race. But Ross Chastain. So that was the initial big story of the event, and the reaction. Of course, Taylor, Denny Hamlin's daughter, was crying and all because of the booing and the post-race reaction and how petty Denny Hamlin is, because I guess when you look like a horse and you don't get your Coke at the right time, you're probably going to be angry, even though you have 49 Cup wins or you have 48 Cup wins now, and you're an owner in the Cup Series and you're still angry. I mean, I don't know. I think he needs to go and get some therapy. If the Tony Stewart needed therapy, I think Denny Hamlin needs some therapy. But he runs Ross Chastain up high, puts him in the fence. That sets off a chain reaction incident with about 30 or so to go in the race, 35 to go. It was the 12 wrecked by himself. My fault. So it was with
he got loose off of turn 3.
Yeah, it was 16 laps to go. That was the wreck. That involved Chastain, Harvick, of course Hamlin, and then Christopher Bell, who's still recovered or still didn't have any issues and was able to finish fourth. But I mean, to me, I figure, knowing Denny Hamlin and how petty that MFer is, and now how angry he is after this DQ, I don't think this is the end for Ross. I think for Ross, it's the first step in understanding that he's a big dog, and he has an owner that supports him. He has cars that can win. He is a guy that could win this championship. Is he the title favorite? No, by no means. I think Clyde is, and then I think them Gibbs cars. But the reality is, the way these tracks lay out and the fact that Daniel Suarez, his teammate, is running really well too, they're in a place where if they can kind of mitigate some of the argy-bargy, at least on the Ross Chastain side, if he can kind of protect himself and figure out a way to mend some fences and kind of go and lay low, so to speak, he has a real chance to make Phoenix and make the Final Four. Whether Denny Hamlin or insert driver here wants him to is another question. I don't think Clyde's going to do it, because outside of Denny Hamlin, I don't think really Clyde had it in him. Denny Hamlin's all talk and is all bark and no bite. Clyde has the personality of driftwood, and if he's aggrieved and because he lost out on a win or something, maybe he'd do it. But he's dopey. I mean, there's really not a whole lot there either. Most of these guys don't have it in them. they talk a lot, but they don't do anything. Because if they really wanted to do something, they should beat the crap out of each other, but they won't allow that either. But yeah, I mean, we talked about it earlier, Josh. I guess the whole Ross versus the world thing, Ross versus Denny. Um, we have yet another chapter in their saga that took place at Pocono, and it probably cost Chastain a chance to win that race.
Yeah, this is a pretty big blow for Chastain's chances for this particular race, and he didn't really, for Denny Hamlin, didn't really give him any room off of turn 4 or turn 1 in that race coming onto the Long Pond Straight in Pocono, and he was didn't wreck him per se, didn't hook him in the right rear or put the bumper to him in one of the corners and pile drive him or anything like that, but Denny Hamlin just washed up the racetrack and didn't give any respect to Ross Chastain, and that's how it is, and that's how Ross has raced Denny Hamlin pretty much. Is he's taking too much and let himself slide into Denny Hamlin, or take overdriven the corner and ran in the back of Denny Hamlin. So Denny Hamlin right now is not going to race him cleanly or anything like that. He's going to race him the same way he feels that Ross is racing him right now. So that's how it's looking like. Although in my mind, like, we talked about it before, previous episodes, that I think with the way that Denny says that he's mad about Ross, like, we thought that flat out takeout would happen here. They had an opportunity last week at New Hampshire to do it, where perfect place at a short track where you can crash somebody into the wall really easily, and I think Denny Hamlin didn't do it there, and you could knock him off a turn 3 and put him into the inside wall on the front stretch, and could have waited to do that, but didn't have the chance there. But here went and overdrove turn 1, the exit, and slid up into Ross and puts him in the wall, and then takes out Kevin Harvick along there as well. So we'll see what happens, and anything further come out of this. But I think Danny said I feel like Danny said he wants to do it where it would hurt him the most. And I mean, to me, that's got to be one of the playoff elimination races or the championship finale, especially if Hamlin's in it and they're running 1-2 on the last lap, and Danny's gonna sure as hell probably send it in there and take out Ross Chastain for the championship probably. But it's gonna get interesting, and I think it's just the first chapter in, I guess, Danny's retaliation book against Ross Chastain. So we'll see what happens, and I think Ross probably is right to assume, if he's assuming that he's gonna get crashed into again, he's probably right to assume to try to stay away from Denny Hamlin as long as possible.
Something we're gonna have to see. Denny, of course, ran into Chase Briscoe, ran him off the racetrack. It's kind of similar to what he did to Ross Chastain at last week. He did it to Chase Briscoe at Indianapolis Motor Speedway last year in the Verizon 200, and then Chase Briscoe came back around without the intention of running him over, but then ran him over. And the two of the biggest people that run Stewart-Haas Racing, Tony Stewart and Greg Zipadelli, were right there to support their guy in the way he handled that situation. I guess Denny Hamlin just has it coming to him at all times, and maybe that's part of the problem. Maybe he's a douche. Well, we knew he was a douche. He's been a douche his whole career, but he wins a lot, and JD was his butt buddy, so that's why he still has that, and FedEx. Those are the main reasons why he has a ride. But we'll see how he's going to be mad and be aggrieved this weekend, and how petty he's going to be and who he's going to run into, because it always seems to be a thing. If it ain't Ross Chastain, it's Joey Logano. If it ain't Joey Logano, it's Brad Keselowski. If it ain't Brad Keselowski, it's somebody like, shut the fuck up, you cocksucker. go and figure out your own things. Figuring out how not to choke, because you've done it plenty of times in your career. Figure out a pit crew for your fucking lead car. I mean, now it's a 45, but the 23, it's 20. You call the team 2311. Stop fucking your one car over, and actually be an owner instead of pontificating and acting like you're God's gift to motorsport. Maybe then good stuff will happen to you. But anyway, yeah, we talked about the penalties there. The points going into this weekend's race. I mean, I don't even think we have an updated points report, so I can't even really say what the true points situation is. The playoff standings, the ones on Jayski's show updated. 105-point lead for Clyde overall on Chastain. And what's it called? Ryan Blaney is 111 points behind overall in third place, but actually 15th in the points. Martin Truex is on the bump, 83 points ahead of Kevin Harvick. After that, it's basically, I mean, really, it's not good. If you're outside of the top 16 at the moment, you need to win. Kurt Busch, by missing the race on Sunday, actually fell behind Chase Briscoe in overall points. The Austin Cindric, Chase Briscoe, and Kurt Busch are all in a tight bunch, 10 points separating Cindric to Kurt Busch, 8 points Cindric to Briscoe. Then you have Tyler Reddick, who is 14 points out of that group there. So that's something to look at. I think essentially in regards to the people, I think for one-win drivers, Kyle Larson, Christopher Bell, I think are pretty good shape. Kyle Busch also is in pretty good shape. Essentially, anybody who has 2 wins is in at this point. Clyde's going to win the regular season. But I also figure Kyle Larson, Christopher Bell, and Kyle Busch are all good. It's from Alex Bowman on where the real sweat starts, which is 36 and 15, which is 51 points separates Alex Bowman and Kurt Busch amongst all those guys who have 1 win. And then not taking into account playoff points and all that, Bowman, Suarez, all these guys are either at 6 or 7 playoff points. Adding Kyle Busch as well into that. Christopher Bell has 5, but the thing that they utilize to determine who makes it or not, if there's more than 16 winners, is overall points, not playoff points, not other things. So that's why those points really do matter. Who knew? They make it about winning, but really it's about the overall points when it comes to the cutoff. But something we'll see how that all works out here next few weeks. Xfinity Series ran at Pocono on Saturday afternoon. There's going to be a good field this weekend at Indy. The Explorer the Pocono Mountains 225 saw Noah Gragson get a victory. What is it? His 8th win of his career. So, and his 3rd win of this season. So, big deal there. Beats Ty Gibbs, 2 guys that are being pushed pretty hard by the media and by NASCAR to be 2 of the next big things in this sport. You know, Ty Gibbs, of course, makes his Cup debut last Sunday in relief. Gragson likely is going to be driving the 42 car next year. in the Cup Series, the connections he has with Spencer Gallagher, Vegas guys, the whole bit. But a big win there, big battle they had. And the points situation right now, I mean, Gibbs would have wanted that win for sure. He still leads in a playoff points. AJ Allmendinger still leads the overall points. He's 16 points ahead of Justin Allgaier, 22 points ahead of Ty Gibbs. But in regards to the and which is why I think AJ Allmendinger really needs the 15 playoff points, because his cars and the Kaulig cars are not great right now. But the JRM cars are, and you could see that because they're second, fourth, fifth, and eighth in the point standings. But just go and get into the results here. Gagson, Gibbs, Barry, Allmendinger actually had a decent run on Saturday. Got a top five. Sheldon Creed, believe that's his best finish of his Xfinity career. Sam Mayer, sixth. Allgaier, seventh. Austin Hill, eighth. Daniel Hemrick, ninth. And Cole Custer in the 07 car, filling in for Joe Graff Jr., who just had to take a leave of absence. Who knows what that was for, but it's a positive for the series. One less person that's likely to go and destroy equipment. That was your top 10. Most of those guys were the ones that were in the stage points. Lanny Castle finished 11th, got stage points in stage 2. Brandon Jones finished 17th, was up front for most of the day, but didn't have things work out so well by the end of the race. And then Sammy Smith, driving the 18 car, got into a wreck early in the race and finished 31st. So it's fitting since he was driving the Pilot Flying J car, and that's what Michael Annett was known for. So Gagson wins over Gibbs, a rivalry that's probably going to develop over time. But a good win for that team. JRM dominates the race, leading 65 and 74 laps between three of their cars. 74 of the 90 laps were led by the Junior Motorsports trio that are up front in the point standings, Josh. So continued domination by that group.
Yeah, the 9 car and the 8 car and the 7 car all were pretty much up front in this race, and Justin Allgaier had good speed. Josh Berry was up there, not quite as fast as either of his teammates, but he was up there. But then, in the end, it was Noah Gragson coming away with the win, and this was a pretty entertaining finish after the second stage, and you saw the lead changes between Allgaier and then Josh Berry. And then Noah Gragson was able to take the lead. And then Ty Gibbs was right up there with them. And he was the only one that was able to stay with Noah Gragson after the final restart. And Noah Gragson was able to defend his position very well in the last 5 laps or so of that race. And kind of like on Sunday with Kyle Busch and Denny Hamlin closing laps, Ty Gibbs, he had a really good turn 1. He was pretty much better than Noah Gragson, especially on the final lap there. And then turn 3 was really good for him, but I feel like he just couldn't get through turn 2 as good as Gragson. So I think that was the difference there. And it was really entertaining because you could see the run that Ty Gibbs could get off of turn 3, whether he was on the low end or even on the kind of the middle / top lane there, and able to make a run on the front stretch and get a draft and side draft, and that's the beauty of Poconos. If you can get a run off the corner and get alongside or right behind him, you use the long straightaway and take advantage of the draft and side draft down the straightaway and possibly take the lead. And that's what I like about Pocono. And then you can kind of do the same thing in Long Pond Straight off of turn 1, as long as you get a good corner there. So it shows what kind of racing that you can have at Pocono, and so why it's one of my favorite tracks there. But it was a really intriguing finish for me. That's why I found it enjoyable. It was, even though it's 2 of the more polarizing figures in this series right now, Ty Gibbs and Noah Gragson. was like, hey, credit to them. They were able to race each other cleanly, and they were able to go out and put on a good finish, and it was a pretty good, entertaining one, especially the last lap. I thought Ty Gibbs was gonna get around Noah Gragson on the backstretch, but he was able to fight back, and they were side by side through the tunnel turn, and Noah Gragson was able to win the battle right there, because it's really hard to have two cars go side by side and make it through the tunnel turn and still remain side by side off of that. And there was going to be one winner and one loser off of that corner, and the high line turned out to be the one to be in, which makes sense with the tighter radius that you have to have going to the corner, and the low line. It's a lot harder to get a corner exit when someone's alongside of you like that. So good defense of his position there with Noah Gragson. So it was a good racecraft, really, I think by both drivers in last 10 laps of the race. So as we continue on from Pocono, the Junior Motorsports team, they've got a lot going for them right now, and I definitely think the momentum's in their favor, and I would probably expect one of those cars to probably be up front behind Ty Gibbs in the points championship. Of course, if one driver with either Justin Allgaier or Noah Gragson, if they win, one race, then one more race, then they'll be tied with Ty Gibbs, and then we'll see how they determine seeding after that. But overall, I think this is a pretty interesting race, especially the Xfinity Series at Pocono. Usually, Xfinity isn't really all that great at Pocono since they moved the series to Pocono, but this time around is actually pretty good. So I felt like very enjoyable race overall.
Yeah, solid enough race for sure. It was a good part of the Saturday ticket where that was the end. That was the last part. You had what we're going to talk about here in a few moments. You had the qualifying in between, and then you had the Xfinity race. So it was a really good. I think it was $25 to get in if you were sitting on the lower level. That's really good value, honestly. But see how things go at Indianapolis Road Course. But Truck Series ran their regular season finale at Pocono, and Zane Smith, after doing well in the first stage, was able to go and lock up the regular season points championship and put himself in position to lead the playoff points. But the person that was the biggest beneficiary of the day was Chandler Smith. Started second, won the race, won stage one, led the most laps, led all but 11 laps in that race. Had a battle with Ryan Preece, but he won one stage. He gets the 5 bonus points for the 5 playoff points for winning, plus the extra playoff point for the stage. He gets 5 points for the win. So outside of winning the second stage, he maximized his points situation and gained a ton of points in the points battle going into the playoff itself. Chandler Smith over Ryan Preece. John Hunter Nemechek finishes third. Corey Heim fourth. So 3 Kyle Busch Motorsports trucks in the top 4. Carson Hocevar finishes fifth. Started third, but finishes fifth. Austin Hill from 31st in the Spire truck finished 6th. Majeski, and he was doing double duty, finished in top 10 in both races, so credit to him on that. Ty Majeski finished 7th, Eckes 8th, Kraus 9th, Tanner Gray 10th. Matt Crafton finished 15th, but he was the guy that made the cutoff. Ankrum, what is it called? Eckes and Ankrum are the 2 closest people to him, but weren't able to win to go past him. Crafton, Zane Smith scored points in both stages, but had some issues during the day. Only finished 13th, so he lost a little bit of ground. and lost some playoff points there on Saturday, unfortunately. But I think it speaks to they've had a pretty good run at it this year. To have a rough weekend the week before the start of the playoffs, maybe it's a good sign. You have it there instead of having it on Friday night at Indianapolis Raceway Park when it really is going to matter. It was pretty straightforward. Chandler Smith dominated, had to work a little bit for it against Ryan Preece, but frankly, there really wasn't a whole lot going on. Todd Bodine got wrecked by Haley Deegan, ending his NASCAR career. 800 starts in his career amongst all three major series. Jack Wood proves once again that he sucks. Spun out early. Spun out in the second lap of the race. Then, he was involved in the wreck with Todd Bodine that was caused by Haley Deegan. Tyler Hill was in that one, and then Blaine Perkins was also in that wreck. So, Chandler Smith. It's the battle of the Smiths right now. They're ahead by a little bit. They got a lot more playoff points. Zane Smith's got 37 playoff points. He's got a 15-point lead on Chandler Smith. They have a huge lead. I mean, Zane Smith's got 20 points on Ben Rhodes in the playoff point standings. And then, Chandler Smith, it's a little closer for him relative to the rest of the field. It's from him to the cutoff, which is Matt Crafton, is 21 points. So that can be made up with stage points and a decent run, a decent effort this weekend. Matt Crafton could pull one out of his ass on Friday night, bringing it back old school, and go and win at IRP and really set himself up for a possibility of that fourth championship to tie Ron Hornaday Jr. I mean, the likelihood of that happening, we'll get into that later. But, Chandler Smith, though, really reinserted himself as a title favorite on Saturday with that performance.
Yeah, Chandler Smith, of course, we haven't really seen a whole lot out of him this season, but now coming into the playoffs, he could have the hot hand here as we start at IRP this weekend, and this is going to be an interesting event for them going into it. But of course, they have a lot of momentum as they just won at Pocono, and I mean, it is a little bit weird to think of Pocono as one of the tracks that would end the season for the Truck Series, let alone have a regular season finale. But nonetheless, that was the case, and I think Zane Smith's still the favorite, but Chandler Smith is looking like he could be the guy that could challenge him this year. It's been mostly a Zane Smith season, but if one of the Kyle Busch Motorsports cars and Chandler Smith is able to go up there and try to get wins to make it through these rounds of the playoffs, he could be one of the guys that we see down in Phoenix if it's not John Hunter Nemechek, who seemingly hasn't had as much success this year as he did last year going into the playoffs. So it's going to be really interesting there. I think for the rest of the playoff drivers, it's going to be interesting to see Carson Hocevar especially after he was injured earlier in the season. Could he make a run in the playoffs? I think Ben Rhodes, we haven't really heard too much from him either. He's seemingly also disappeared off the map, but he has the most stage wins actually of all the Truck Series drivers, but and has a good number of playoff points to go with that, but doesn't have the race wins. So it's gonna be interesting if he can try to maximize his points. He's seventh in the standings right now, preceding, but if he doesn't win anything, he could get by on stage points and playoff points, but it's gonna you're gonna have to need those points later on in the year as the points get tighter and we get through the rounds of round of 10, round of 8, round of 4 cutoffs. So it's going to be interesting to watch all that happen. Stuart Friesen could be somebody that we see, but it's going to be interesting to watch with especially the Truck Series. There's not really a whole lot of competitive depth outside the top four drivers, and I think you're going to see the top four possibly be in the playoffs later this year. But yeah, this Pocono, not really a whole lot happened other than Todd Bodine making his 800th start in final race, but could be hinting at an 801 since this one ended in a crash. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I think the race could have been better, but it is what it is. Going IRP this coming weekend though is nice to see, bringing you back old school. The point you made about Ben Rhodes, he's a defending series champion. He was able to close it out last year at Phoenix when other people stepped on themselves, including John Hunter Nemechek, and he's only 20 points back. Only 2 people get knocked out this round. So the fact that, I think the only 2 people, I think the top 3 are pretty safe. Even with the fact that Ben Rhodes and Chandler Smith are giving up a few points. I think John Hunter isn't in a bad spot, or Friesen for that matter, because they have double-digit playoff points. I think the people that are going to get knocked out this first round are amongst the second 10, unless they go and win a race. If one of these 5, whether it's Eckes, Majeski, Hocevar, Enfinger, Crafton, win in this first round, then it changes the game for them for sure. Getting into this schedule here, they're going to run at IRP this Friday. They'll have a week off. Then they'll be racing Saturday afternoon, Richmond Raceway, or Saturday night, Richmond Raceway, as a precursor to the Richmond Cup race. Then they'll have 3 weeks off before they go and race at Kansas. So you'll have 2 short tracks, 2 flatter short tracks, and a 1.5 mile track as part of round 1. They'll be finished with their first round. Then they'll have a short turnaround, essentially, from the first round to the second round, going to Bristol for a Thursday night show, middle September. Then they'll have a week off Talladega, 2 weeks off Homestead, a week off, then their championship finale. So that's very we talked about it, I think, way back when, early in late April, early May. That was the big part of the season, from Darlington at the start of May till last week. They only had 2 weeks off in that, and that was recently. They've had off weeks. They raced, 8 weeks in a row. Then they've had 2 weeks off, staggered with Mid-Ohio and Pocono. Now the rest of this season's just not going to make sense. The Truck Series is going to get forgotten in the process of how motorsports works. So God bless NASCAR and the way they schedule the Truck Series, in trying to go and explain the playoff system and the playoff format and that. Going into, I closed out of that, the IndyCar doubleheaders. So, I think the first piece we have to get into is the whole Joseph Newgarden thing. Joseph Newgarden dominated on Saturday and theoretically was in line to win on Sunday. He's the league season or series leading driver at the moment with wins, with 4. In terms of polls, of course, P1 award, I don't know why they showed for points. I just want should show how many polls they have. But Newgarden crashed out on Sunday, uh, lifting Pato O'Ward up to go and win. It was a pretty dominant weekend for the Chevy outfits there at Iowa Speedway. Hy-Vee did an amazing job with activation. The crowds were good. It was really hot there as well, but the crowds were great at Iowa Speedway. They had the action was fast and furious. Josh's picks were way better than mine, but that's not shocking. He picked Joseph Newgarden, and of course he won one and probably should have won both. And his wild card was Jim Johnson, who ended up uh, finished just outside the top 10 in the first race, but ran better than that, and then got his first career top 5 in the IndyCar series on Sunday.
Led a handful of laps too.
And led too, so tells you the endurance factor and how fit Jimmy Johnson is, running 550 laps at Iowa Speedway in 2 days, plus practice and qualifying and the whole bit, and being able to compete at that level. It sounds like he's going to be back for another year next year to run full time in IndyCar. There was some rumors that he might not be, but maybe that win will come next year for Jimmy Johnson, which would be pretty crazy to think. Him winning in an IndyCar, being a 80-plus time winner in the Cup Series and 7-time champion there, winning in off-road racing and Mickey Thompson racing in all different forms, riding on bikes and dirt bikes and quad or whatever, soup buggies and trucks and the whole thing, showing how versatile of a driver and, I mean, obviously Hall of Fame career there. But yeah, we'll first get into the Saturday. I'll go over the results of the Saturday and Sunday races, and then we'll kind of take it from there. Newgarden wins the first race, led 208 of the 250 laps, maximized his point situation. Will Powers started on pole, led 23 laps. Jimmy Johnson led 19 laps on Saturday. Those were the only 3 people that led. Pato O'Ward finished second, Will Power third, Renus VK fourth, Scott Dixon fifth after starting 13th, Alex Palou, defending series champion, after starting 14th, finished sixth, Romain Grosjean seventh, series points leader, Marcus Ericsson eighth, Graham Rahal finished ninth, and Christian Lundgaard finished 10th. Yeah, so those were the guys there. Other, like, Connor Daly started third, was the last car 1 lap down, had issues with handling. Jack Harvey in the Hy-Vee car started 7th but finished 18th, continuing his great performance this year. Malukas started 6th, finished 14th. Yeah, so that. Rosenquist crashed in the race along with Ed Carpenter, but Ed Carpenter seems to crash every race he's in anymore. Then in the next race was the 300 lapper. Pato O'Ward led 66 laps and won over Will Power, who led 80 laps in this race. Started on pole in both races to be within 1 pole of the all-time record. Scott McLaughlin finished third, so Chevy sweeps the podium in that race. So Chevy swept the podiums in both races. Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. Scott Dixon finished fourth in the race after starting 18th. Jimmy Johnson, 13th to 5th, gets his first career top 5 finish in the IndyCar series. So the Ganassi cars finished 4th, 5th, and 6th. Marcus Ericsson. 6th, Rosenquist recovers to finish 7th in the second race. Malukas 8th, Grosjean 9th, Takuma Sato 10th. Callum Ilott, give him a honorable mention, 22nd to 11th, showing how good that Juncos Hollinger team is getting and how good Callum Ilott's getting too. I mean, let's be honest, the guy was a Formula One talent, somebody that Ferrari was looking at possibly to have in their program. So 11 cars on the lead lap there. Newgarden, of course, Rex with that lap 235 after leading 148 laps of the race. So there was only one caution in the race up to that point. So he was only the second caution of the race was him. Lundgaard parked with a brake issue. Kyle Kirkwood aided again. It's been a rough baptism by fire for Kyle Kirkwood this year. And then, of course, losing the sponsor doesn't help either. It seems to wreck every week because he's actually trying. Dalton Kellett sucks, so that's why he just drives around and finishes last every race. Newgarden, of course, crashes and then has the health issue. Haven't really heard anything about his status. Root beer float head, also known as Santino Ferrucci, is on call if Joseph Newgarden can't make it, which is crazy to me that Santino Ferrucci. But then I also think about the hiring practices that Roger Penske has had with some of his drivers and kind of the character issues they've had over time. And he did employ Paul Tracy twice. So I guess Santino Ferrucci kind of fits the bill because he's daddy's money type, but he's also a douche. So, Pato O'Ward goes and gets that W. Puts himself in a position still to stay in this point standings. He's only the third driver so far this year that has multiple wins. I think Joseph Newgarden, if he wins that race on Sunday, which he was likely to, would have been the title favorite. Now he's in a position where he might not even race this weekend. It's a crazy turn of events. I'm just hoping he'll be okay because he's one of the faces of this series. He's the American hope, really. He was somebody that in Formula One people were thinking he might have been the next Formula One driver from the United States of America, but instead he was able to come over here, make an IndyCar, get hired by Roger Penske in large part because Robin Miller talked about him over and over and over again. God bless his soul. He's trying for a third championship, but we need to see if he'll be able to make it on Saturday to race. But it was a great weekend at Iowa Speedway for sure. 2 races and lots of people there, and kind of makes me want to go there in the middle of Iowa, honestly, just to go and have that. If that's what they're going to do from now on, you'll get 2 races you get great value.
Yeah, this was a really interesting series of races, both on Saturday and on Sunday. So, the first race, Justin Newgarden dominated throughout, very thorough domination, and only 5 cars finished on lead lap. But we saw Jimmy Johnson there led 19 laps after his spin in the first part of the race, and I thought maybe he might be able to net a top 5 there, but Jimmy, I think, started to have a loose condition in the last, maybe 50 laps or so of that race, and you could see him catching the car in turn 3 and 4, and off of turn 1 and 2, and I think he was using the high line too much and on there, and burned up the right rear tire, and I think that's probably what caused him to fall back out of the top 5 and finish in 11th there. But that was a pretty good run there, and showed what he could do on Sunday there. But as far as the rest of the field, like I said going in the show, Joseph Newgarden, I mean, expect him to be up front, but then also looked out for Pato O'Ward, and Pato O'Ward finished second. Will Power, of course, won pole both days and still managed to lead some laps. So Will Power, of course, has a chance to go out and win the title still. He's obviously continued his run of consistency, so expect him to be able to keep challenging Marcus Ericsson, especially as we progress throughout the rest of the season. And how about Rinus VK also, who had a good day on Saturday racing? He was racing against Jimmy Johnson. Jimmy was giving him a tough time, and I think that's probably what caused Jimmy's tire to wear out, and Rinus VK was able to net the position there and continue on, pick up a fourth place finish. So it was a good run for that team. They've been, I feel like they've been kind of up and down. Rinus VK, they've had some good races this year, and they've had a lot of bad races, and it shows in their point standing right now, being 12th place, way out of championship contention there. But the rest of the field, Graham Rahal had a solid day, finishing 9th, a lap down, but solid finish. And Marcus Ericsson finished 8th place, lap down, but still a solid finish, and still what he needed to be able to continue to lead in the points championship. So that's how it went. And of course, you saw Felix Rosenquist crash as well. And of course, when he crashes out, it gives concern if a Ward might crash out, but no, that wasn't the case there. So overall solid race. And then I think for a team that we need to talk about, a driver we talk about who's testing in Formula One, is Colton Herta. Finished 24th and was never really in contention. They had some parts issues, mechanical issues there, so they were pretty much 8 laps down and out of contention the whole race, so not a whole lot from them. And then of course on Sunday, this was the more interesting race, and I think of course with all that happened, could be the catalyst in the championship race. But of course here, Pato O'Ward wins the race, and he was in second again to Joseph Newgarden. Looked like it was going to be a win. Newgarden has a shock failure out of nowhere and spins, hits the wall, and of course points wise, this is basically a double points race. So when you don't finish the second race, it pretty much puts a ding on your you only get half the points that you could have gained if he had won the race, and now puts himself in a vulnerable position in the championship. And if his injury status is not good after Thursday, once they decide whether he's cleared or not, could affect his championship hopes. But for the rest of the field, of course, brings Pato O'Ward back into or closer into the title chase. Scott Dixon's in the title chase as well. He had a good race weekend, finishing 4th in both events. Will Power, of course, finished 2nd, so continuing to get consistency there. And then Marcus Ericsson was racing against Jimmy Johnson, his teammate. They had a good battle towards the end. Luckily they were able to not get together. They had a couple of close calls coming off of turn 4 and coming off of turn 2 on the backstretch, and they were able to keep it clean. And of course that would have been big if Jimmy Johnson and Marcus Ericsson got together, because they're teammates, and then plus one of them is basically still a rookie in the IndyCar series, and the other is a current points leader in Indy 500 championship. So that would have been very big if those two had gotten together at the end of that race. But and then of course Jimmy Johnson finishing 5th here, and again showing what he can do in an IndyCar and an oval. So hopefully it leads to good runs later in the season, and hopefully it turns into a full-time campaign in 2023. We're able to see him run at least full-time one more year, and then we'll decide from there what happens to him. But overall this was a pretty good event for the IndyCar series. Both days had good solid battles, and you saw the contrast in tire wear from start to finish, and who was struggling on tires at the end and who wasn't. And that showed in the results order, both the number of cars who were still on the lead lap and who wasn't on the lead lap, and then in both the intervals, because Pato O'Ward, Will Power were fighting it out on both days. And then at the end of the race, Pato O'Ward was pretty much ahead of Will Power there. They were pretty close together, but then at the end, Pato drove away from him. And on the day before that, when Joseph Newgarden won, there was maybe a possibility that Pato O'Ward would get through lap traffic and catch Joseph Newgarden. But then by the end of it, Newgarden had a 6-second advantage over him. I think it was within a second or around 1 second with like 10 laps to go, and Newgarden was able to stretch it out, and of course looked like Pato O'Ward had a lot of tire wear towards the end and couldn't get through the lap traffic there to catch Newgarden. So yeah, this is why Iowa's one of the fun tracks. Glad it's back on the schedule, and glad they're able to put on 2 races for the fans and really make it look like into a good venue. You have to give Hy-Vee a lot of credit for investing in the track and give them a lot of opportunity for this year, and it sounds like they're gonna have this race again in the future next year and beyond. So glad I was back on the schedule and we can have another short track race on the IndyCar schedule.
Sorry about that. There, trying to go and multitask. My fault. But yeah, Iowa Speedway being back, I think, might be the first of a few tracks that if they really, if IndyCar really wanted to go and maximize their reach, Road America, I think, is another one since the Cup weekend's gone, at least for a couple of years. Go and maximize that weekend. Maybe go and make a connection with IMSA to go and balance things out. That would probably be not a bad idea. For July the 4th, go and bring back the 6 hours or the 1,000-kilometer race on Saturday, run the Indy cars on Sunday. Think that would be an amazing ticket there and have it on July the 4th weekend. Gateway does a great job. But Iowa, they did a great job too. But then I think I'm trying to. I think that was a Penske run deal, or no, it was a Rahal deal. They did a lot with that, with Hy-Vee and the activation, and Graham seemed to be into it big because he was on the Speed Street podcast with Joey Molinaro and Connor Daly, and that was a good listen. Actually, it was very. He's the thing is, for as much of a douche as Graham Rahal comes off as, he understands the sport and he cares about the sport, and I think that's part of it. He's a lot like Junior in that way, in NASCAR parlance, but he doesn't have the statistics per se to go and kind of support it. But to be fair, he's got better stats than Marco Andretti. We're going to talk about him in a little bit, but he had a lot of great points there. That was a good podcast, part of the June Dale Dirty Mo Media situation there. The points going into this weekend at the Indy Road Course, which is a Penske benefit, literally and figuratively. Marcus Ericsson leads by 8 points over Will Power. Will Power has the most poles this year, and he has the most podiums. Same amount of wins, of course. Ericsson's win is the one that is the biggest one of them all, the Indianapolis 500. 8 points between those two. Newgarden, Dixon are tied for third in points, but Newgarden, of course, has the tiebreaker with 4 wins. Pato O'Ward's 36 points back in fifth. One of 3 guys with double-digit wins, Scott McLaughlin being the third. Alex Palou is sixth, 44 points back. This is the key point of the season. We talked about it with the Truck Series. This is the key point of the season. You need to put it together right now. If you can get on a run, it can really put yourself in a place to get a championship. After that, McLaughlin's last driver inside of 100 points. He's 86 points back in seventh. Colton Hurd is 125 points back in eighth. Rosenquist 128 in ninth, and Alexander Rossi's in 10th, 138 points back. So essentially a miracle would have to happen for any of those guys to get through. In terms of drivers' average finishing position, of course, Will Power, best average finish. Scott Dixon's right there with him, but is giving up 26 points to him. So that's the points battle in a sense, with Marcus Ericsson being third, Palou fourth, Newgarden fifth, and Pat O'Ward sixth. So that's why they are where they are. Those are the top six in points. And then Scott McLaughlin, seven. Those are the reality is those seven drivers, that's where you're going to have the champion. One of those seven guys is likely to win. The Indy Road Course is a Penske house. If Newgarden can race, it's one thing. If Newgarden can't race, I think it really opens the door big time for Will Power and Scott McLaughlin to go and get a fast six and a win and put themselves right smack dab into it. If Will Power wins, he'll take the points lead. McLaughlin wins, he really has a chance to win this championship. Something we'll discuss here shortly. French Grand Prix this past weekend at Paul Ricard saw Max Verstappen get another win. As trying to go and see the result standings, we'll go and bring that up. Max Verstappen has won 6 races this year, or 7 races this year. Or no, 6 races this year. I have to bring it up over on this site because it's more clear. I'm not sure if they put in France finally. I don't know who runs Racing Reference. I'd work for Racing Reference over what the hell I'm doing, just so it'd be updated right after it happens. Yeah. 7 wins for Verstappen. Leclerc has 3. Checo and Carlos Sainz have 1 apiece. Verstappen has 9 podiums in 12 races, so he's got the most there. Leclerc has 7 poles, so he's got the pole winning thing down. Average finish for Fish Lips is 4.7. When he's running at the finish, generally speaking, he's on the podium and more or less he's winning a race. So 63-point lead for him going into this weekend's race at the Hungaroring before the summer break, and the triple header at Spa, Zandvoort, and Monza. Not sure why they do Zandvoort in between. They should just put Zandvoort first so they can have the Maggot Rally happen first, or put it last. That would be even better. Verstappen led 35 laps. He was the beneficiary of Leclerc's issue in turn 11. It was a throttle sticking issue. He went off wide and crashed. At the same time, Yuki Tsunoda retired out of the race. So Verstappen wins over Lewis Hamilton, George Russell. So first Mercedes double podium of the year. Checo Perez had an awful weekend, but still salvaged a 4th place finish after starting 3rd. Carlos Sainz took engine penalties, and then while he was in a position to possibly finish 4th, Ferrari inexplicably pitted him and cost him a chance to finish 4th. He finished 5th. Fred Alonso, El Plan 6th, Lando Norris 7th, Esteban Ocon 8th, Daniel Ricciardo 9th, Lance Stroll brake testing his teammate Sebastian Vettel for the final point. It was a good battle there. There's, from Ricciardo all the way back to Gasly in 12th was separated by like 5 seconds. That's pretty close. and Albon was in that mix too. Zhou had engine issues, but they avoided. I think that was a virtual safety car that allowed George Russell to pass Sergio Perez. So fast race, Verstappen. Once Leclerc had his issues yet again, gets another win. Ferrari dick stepping on themselves for both their drivers and likely giving away both championships in the process. Saying that now when this championship goes all the way to the end of November is, oh, you're getting out there too early. But I mean, let's be honest. What the hell is Ferrari gonna do? The amount of points Ferrari's given away in this championship so far this year, they'd be in this for both. They'd be in for a drivers' championship and a constructors with all the f ups they've had between the drivers' mistakes itself, the mechanical issues they've had, and the terrible strategy that Ferrari's brought to the table. It's been a complete clusterfuck by Ferrari. And this has been a consistent pattern of what Ferrari has been essentially since Michael Schumacher quit. They have not been able to meet the standard. They needed other people to F up for them to meet a standard, like McLaren in 2007, which is why Lewis should be an 8-time one of the reasons why Lewis should be at least an 8-time champion. More than that, probably 9. And then that would have been 10 last year. It wouldn't have been as big of a deal. All the Max Verstappen bullshit. But yeah, I guess the stories are Verstappen pulls away, Ferrari gives it away, and we have some other interesting stuff going on within all the other teams there, Josh.
Yeah, I mean, starting off with Ferrari and Red Bull, of course, but Ferrari, I mean, Charles Leclerc, of course, Chuck Leclerc, as our friend Willie T. Ribbs says, this was an opportunity for them to get back into the race and get back into the championship, but they had a stuck throttle issue, and this happened in their victory at Austria, at the Austrian Grand Prix, and at the end, Charles Leclerc was very worried about that one at the end because, of course, stuck throttle or the pedal not, releasing completely can lead to bad issues and leads to inaccuracy in driving your laps, and that leads to issues there. So now that he has a stuck throttle, goes and spins out and hits the wall, and that's the end of his race. So for Ferrari, they clearly have some quality control issues that they've got to figure out with their car, with their mechanical issues on, especially with the throttle. It's not looking good for Charles Leclerc. He should have been able to compete with Red Bull this year with Max Verstappen. It was looking like that in the very beginning of the year, but now Verstappen is pulled away, and Ferrari, with whether it's due to strategy or mechanical failures, they've continued to shoot themselves in the foot to be able to compete for not only their championship for the driver, but also for the Constructors' Championship and not maximizing their points there. So it's not a good look there. And then, of course, Verstappen goes out and wins almost by default after that. And so right now it's basically Ferrari shooting themselves in the foot, and Red Bull, Verstappen continuing to pull away from the rest of the pack. And more than likely they could be the champion at the end of the year, although there's still a long way to go, and we'll see what happens at the end of the season here. But it was looking like maybe Ferrari could pull out the win here in France, but after that it was Verstappen's race. I think also look at Mercedes. They had pace, not winning pace, but they had pace, and they were able to take home second and third. Of course, Lewis had issues with the throughout the race, and saw him on the floor there, laying down, pretty exhausted after 300 start in Formula One. So, it's been a long career for Lewis, which doesn't even feel like it because it doesn't even feel like that long ago he won his first championship. But now here he is, 300 races in, and looking as strong as ever, of course. But he's getting old, getting up there, but still one of the best in Formula One. And then, of course, is probably
Getting
his.
old. We're the same age. He's
Yeah,
only 2 weeks older than me.
yeah, that's true.
So
So I
lay
guess,
off
yeah, you're
on
getting
getting
old
old.
too. I mean, I'm getting old,
Yeah.
but yeah, but it's what you do with it, I guess. But
Yeah, but the difference is the guy's a fucking multimillionaire. He's one of the greatest race car drivers ever, and he's banged so many hot women that it doesn't even matter. And he's won over 100 Formula One races. He's a 7.5 time world champion,
yeah,
probably 8.5 time world champion.
8.5.
Uh, yeah. But yeah, he's had a little, and he's had the struggle, and he's had to go through everything to become what he is. Connor Moore does an impression of him, which is hilarious and great. Um, but yeah, he's a little bit better than I am, and he's 2 weeks older than me. So whatever,
Yeah.
it is what it is. So
No, it's you also have his teammate there who's going to be a successor more than likely in as far as the flagship driver, flagship car, George Russell. Solidly having another third place finish. So George Russell, carrying the flag this year for Mercedes, and Lewis is catching him, but in points. But George Russell's continuing to put in solid finishes first year at Mercedes. That's what he needs to do, and continue to push Lewis. But the rest of the field, Daniel Ricciardo finished in ninth. He had another solid race. Not better than his teammate, but right around his teammate. Then you talked about Sergio Perez, who was off from Verstappen, which looking at the times, like you'd expected Carlos or was Sergio to finish up at least in the podium, but he did not. And of course, Carlos Sainz confused after the race for many reasons, including the strategy with Ferrari. And yeah, like I said earlier, not only are they shooting themselves in the foot with Leclerc, but also with Carlos Sainz. So yeah, they've got to regroup on that end and figure out something there. Else, yeah, this championship on both ends is going to go away from them if it hasn't already. And then Fred Alonso, continuing to score in the points. He's solidly getting sixth through 10th place finishes every week in Formula One. So they're figuring out a way to maximize their position, I guess, in the midfield, and his teammate not too far away from him, Esteban Ocon, finishing in ninth or in eighth place there. So pretty interesting there. I think one team we talked about going into this weekend that we probably expected a lot more is Haas and their drivers Mick Schumacher and Kevin Magnussen both were out of contention in this one. He had a couple of good races going into this French Grand Prix, but then, of course, Magnussen crashed out, retired, and then Mick finishing 80 seconds behind. So, not the best weekend after probably two of the best recent weekends for Mick and his teammate Kevin in the Haas team. So it's they got to figure out something going into the next Grand Prix in Spa. So we'll see what happens. As they continue to progress throughout the rest of the season. But yeah, I mean, other than that, I mean, there wasn't really too much that happened in this race, but it's a significant occurrence with Charles Leclerc crashing out of this one, and certainly hurts his title chances there.
yeah, it's something that he's going to look back on. He already said it that he gave away the win on Sunday. But Ferrari's been giving away the wins, and he's given away points, and so is Carlos, and it's unfortunate because I think with the regulation changes that are coming for next year, they're probably going to fall back to third. They're going to fall back behind Mercedes, and Red Bull's going to be the lead team, but Mercedes is going to be there. And Ferrari is going to rue the fact that they had a great car, especially a car on one lap speed. And 7 poles for Charles Leclerc and only 3 wins. Something that they're going to probably have to deal with. We'll see what happens here this weekend. We'll get into that in a few moments' time. Get into the roundup before we get into the previews here. Formula 2 ran this past weekend at Paul Ricard. Logan Sargent qualified on pole for the first race. Ended up falling back. Didn't have a great start. I'm trying to go and I don't know why I did that. I was in Formula 2. Joe Capito has come out in regards to Logan Sargent and his progression. And if he was to go and win Formula 2, it would cause a little bit of a conundrum for Williams, since their likely scenario is calling up, going and making a call to have, not Liam Lawson. Why am I saying Liam Lawson? It would be getting Oscar Piastri on loan from Alpine, who was the defending Formula 2 champion, to take over that second seat. He's a test driver for them. But if Logan Sargent wins a championship, he would be ineligible to race in Formula 2 next year. His weekend at Paul Ricard, though, would speak to the fact that he probably isn't going to win the World Formula 2 championship. He backdoored a 8th place finish in race 1 to get the pole in the feature race. Liam Lawson wins over Jan Daruvula, and points leader Felipe Drogovic, after a rough period, gets a podium. Jack Doohan, Frederick Vesti, your top 5. Iwasa 6th, Pocher 7th. There. In race 2, Iwasa gets the win, another Red Bull development driver. So Red Bull guys win 3 races there, so God bless all of them. Teo Pocher finishes 2nd, Vesti 3rd, Drogovic 4th, Doohan 5th, Lawson 6th, Daruvula 7th, Clement Novalak 8th, Roy Nissany 9th, and Enzo Fittipaldi 10th. Logan Sargent DNFs and finishes 19th. So brutal weekend for Logan Sargent. Loses 2nd place in points, gets no points in France. Well, the point is, he should have gotten a point because he finished 8th. Unless they only give, I didn't know that they only give points to the top. Yeah, they only give points to the top 7. How the hell does Yuri Vips get 3 points, though? Like, that's what I don't understand. He has 3 points, and he finished 11th. I guess I've never noticed this before. But, because he got penalized. He had a time penalty. Oh, so Logan Sargent was 9th because of the time penalty. Okay, fine. Whatever, I don't know. So, Logan Sargent got no points last weekend after getting to 2nd in points. So now Logan Sargent is locked in 3rd. He is 21 points out of Jan Daruvula, who is 4th. But he is 23 points behind Teo Pocher, who is 2nd. Drogovic, who had a rough period there for a couple, I guess, 2-3 weeks. I mean, he's been pretty much, he had a great, I guess, 3 race weekends in Saudi, in Spain, Monaco. Then in Baku, Silverstone, and France were all solid enough. He had a brutal weekend at Austria, which is where Sargent made his move. But Drogovic is still, 34 points ahead of Teo Pocher. And there's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 races to go in the championship. They'll be racing at Hungary, then they'll take a break. They'll race at Belgium, and Zandvoort, Italy, and then they'll take a long break, another break, before Abu Dhabi to end the season. So this will be a slow period for them in their championship after this weekend. They'll have 3 consecutive races, and then they'll have a long wait. But Drogovic looking at possibly winning a championship and not having anything to show for it. Formula 3 makes a return this coming weekend at Hungarian Grand Prix before they come back for Belgium. They'll have the summer break. They took a break after Austria, and they'll have the 3 weekends at Belgium, the Netherlands, and Italy to go and end their series. Victor Martins leads by 1 point over Isaac Hadjar. Artur Leclerc is 6 points or 7 points behind Martins. Jack Crawford, the American, is 4th. Roman Stanek, 5th. There, I'm trying to see who else. Kalen Frederick, the American, 11th. Juan Manuel Correa, American, 13th. Kush Miney, the Indian driver, 15th. Going through all the Brad Benavides. Hunter Yaney's American driver hasn't scored yet. They don't have all the flags for all the drivers. I have to go on the website. I'm not trying to really go that far. Doesn't really matter if you're that far away. The W Series essentially is Jamie Chadwick. She goes and wins every freaking race because she's an alien and probably shouldn't be racing in this series. She's won every race so far this year. 7 consecutive win to start the year. I think it's 9 wins in a row for her in this series overall. So that tells you how good she is relative to her competition. They'll be racing at the Hungaroring and then taking a 2-month break, a little over 2-month break, before they go to Suzuka. And then Austin and Mexico City, they'll have 3 races in the month of October. But Jamie Chadwick, for all intents and purposes, has won a 3rd consecutive W Series championship. She is, 75 points ahead. She's got 25 and 50, 73 points ahead. No, 72 points ahead of Abby Pulling, 72 ahead of Abby Pulling and 75 ahead of Betske Visser, who is 3rd. She's won every race this year. Chadwick, she should be in an F3 or an F2 car, to be honest. But the points battle behind Jamie Chadwick is quite intriguing. From 2nd to 8th is only separated by 17 points. So there's a lot of battling there for all these drivers that are likely going to come back next year. I know I would venture to say Chadwick will not be back next year. Chloe Chambers, the American driver, Chadwick's teammate, is 13th. She scored in the opening race at Miami, has not scored since. had some rough runs. We'll see what happens with her. There are drivers behind her. There's 4 drivers that have not scored points. Abby Eaton, the Stig in the Grand Tour, who's dating one of the other girls on this series here. She's the only other driver that has scored points that's behind Chloe Chambers. So is what it is on that. Going into Formula E in the London E-Prix this coming weekend, we have. I don't know why it said define. Why do I wish it would come up in a hyperlink. Copy and paste. There you go. Stoffel Van Dorn is up by 11 points on Eduardo Matara. Mitch Evans is 16 points behind Van Dorn. Jean-Eric Verne is 27 behind. So that's really the battle here going into this race. Right now, there's 2 race weekends to go. There will be 2 races at London this coming weekend, and then they'll be racing in Seoul, South Korea, to end this particular season of Formula E. And with 4 drivers that have 4 drivers in 4 different teams, no less. Jean-Eric Verne, who has won multiple championships in the series. Mortara, who was in contention last year. Evans, I think, was in contention last year as well. And then Van Dorn, who struggled, but now he's gotten around it. Oliver Askew scored points in the first round in Saudi and in Diriyah and hasn't scored a point since. The Andretti Autosport team has not exactly been great this year, but Jake Dennis does have 47 points, so it's a case of experience, I guess, for him relative to Oliver Askew. If he was in the 45 car, he'd be better than Jack Harvey, but the fact is Jack Harvey is one of Graham Rahal's butt buddies. So it's a waste of a seat over there, and they're wasting a seat here in Formula E too, I guess. Supercars at the Bend this coming weekend. They've had a break of a few weeks for the supercars. Announcements in regards to wild cards for the Bathurst 1000 coming up there. If you go on motorsport.com, free promotion for them. Shane Van Gisbergen is 104 points ahead of Anton De Pasquale. 107 and 122 ahead of Will Davison. Cameron Waters is 4th. Chaz Mostert is 5th. Van Gisbergen's teammate Brock Feeney is 6th. Going into the Bend this weekend, then 3 weeks' time, they'll be at Sandown, what used to be the Sandown 500, the big endurance race, but now that's not one. The last race at Pukekohe will be coming up the weekend of September 11th. Then Bathurst 1000 in October, so there's a month. So there's separation now. After this race, there's a little bit of gaps between all these races. Surfers Paradise will be in the month of October, 3 weeks after Bathurst 1000, and Adelaide will return for their finale. The Adelaide 500 comes back to the schedule, the old Clipsal 500, so that's great to see. But likely Shane Van Gisbergen will win another Supercars title See what happens, though. We'll talk about it next week on the GSP. What happens in the supercars. World Superbikes return this weekend for their first race in a while. Leon Haslam will not race in this weekend based on his commitments to racing in Suzuka for the Suzuka 8 Hour. So tells you where he is in points. He's like, they'd rather have him race in Suzuka as part of an endurance race. Alvaro Bautista is 17 points ahead of Johnny Ray in regards to the Riders Championship. And Toprak Rasgatlioglu, the defending world champion, is 43 points behind Alvaro Bautista. The battle after that is a little more interesting. Locatelli, Ruben Rinaldi separated by 5. Locatelli through Alex Lowe's is only separated by 18 points. Garrett Gerloff is in 12th with 48 points. He is 31 points behind Scott Redding, and he's 40 points behind Axel Bassani. So that's what he has to aim at to possibly move himself up and keep himself on the grid during the second half of the season. They'll be racing in the Czech Republic Autodromo Most this weekend. Then they'll be racing. They'll take a month off, which is interesting. They race at Donington Park. They had already taken over a month off after Misano. Then they had 2 weeks, 2 weeks off. Then they'll race at Autodrome Most. Then they'll take 5 weeks off before they race at Manicourt, and then essentially get into the back end of the schedule. They'll be pretty loaded at that point. It'll be during football season, so we'll see what happens with that. Hopefully, he can go and make some moves there. So, Josh, I'll throw to you here. Let's get started with Cup and Xfinity. They'll be at the Indy Road Course this coming weekend. Lucas Oil Raceway will host NASCAR's main series for the first time in a few years. The Truck Series will start their playoffs with the T Sport 200 at Lucas Oil Indianapolis Raceway Park. That's the official name. Johnny Sauter will be racing in the 13 truck this weekend. Taylor Gray will be in the 17, most likely the ARCA champion. Chandler Smith there. You got the 20. I think they probably have something on J-Ski about that. Doesn't say anything. Is that Lane Riggs? Yeah. Oh, no, he's driving the Halmar Friesen 62. Okay. Yeah, Lane Riggs is going to be in the Halmar Friesen 62, so I don't know who's in 20. Austin Wayne Self's actually coming back. I don't know what we did to go and have that benefit, to have that presence. You got Enfinger in there. Hacker will be driving the 30 for On Point. Josh Rayum actually driving for his own team. Jake Garcia, whoever the hell he is going to be driving for the McAnally team along with Derek Kraus. Blake Lothian will drive for Rayum Brothers. Corey Heim is going to be in the 51 truck. We have, Lane Riggs, as I mentioned, and Halmar Friesen truck. And Chad. Is that a misprint that they said Chad Chastain? Or no? I guess that's Ross Chastain's brother.
Oh yeah, he has a
Right.
brother. That's right.
Yeah. So Ross Chastain's brother Chad is going to be making his Truck Series debut on Friday night in the 41 truck, as because Ross is going to be running the Xfinity race. So we'll talk about that in a minute. But um, before I go and I take a minute here, um, I'm going to go. And I'm going to go, since we're doing previews, I want to write these down. We don't usually write them, and I'm usually wrong anyway, but I'm going to write this down. I'm calling Matt Crafton, pulling one out for a victory on Friday night. And my wild card pick to do something on Friday night. Now, I guess the question is the wild card somebody that isn't in the playoff, or can they be in the playoff?
Well, they could be in the playoff, but I think it's somebody that is a long shot in the playoffs, like whoever's the lowest or close to the lowest seed, and then I think on the other end of it, yeah, someone who is like completely out of it.
Yeah, because essentially Matt Crafton hits both of those things because he's a long shot to win this championship and he barely made it in. And I wanted to hedge my picks in this case. And I'm going to go and take Carson Hocevar. So the reality is I could switch him. I'll do it that way then. It's my show. Carson Hocevar is my winner to get his first career Truck Series win. And then long shot. And Carson Hocevar is the winner. And Matt Crafton is my long shot for Friday night. How about you?
Well, you can look in the Discord channel. I just made a new channel called Picks Channel, and I put it there for you. Um,
Cool.
so yeah, you got that there. Let's see for the trucks. I'm gonna go with the title favorite right now. Pick Zane Smith to open up the championship playoffs here with a win, and then wild card. I'm gonna go. Let's see. It's hard to pick, but you know what? I'm trying to look. Yeah, I'll pick Matt DiBenedetto as a wild card. Why not? We'll go pretty wild there.
So D Burrito, you can fill that in. I'll go and put that here. So, and that's for Phil, and then from Josh is Zane Smith as a dub, which is a safe pick, and then D Burrito as in one
He hasn't won
in
anything yet.
any. He hasn't won in any form of motorsport. I think in 6 years,
Yeah, I'm just
at
drawing
least
names out
six
of a hat.
years. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out. Like I might be wrong on that. It might be even further than that. But I'm thinking because he hadn't gotten a cup. I'm trying to remember when he got the cup and who. I think he was driving for that uh, BK Racing gimmick before he went to the 32, and I think that was like 16 or 17 or something. So I'm trying to remember when the hell he won. We could probably go on Racing Reference, just go and save ourselves the pain in that sense. That's what I'm gonna do, just to figure out when the hell the last time Matt DiBurrito won a race. Go and forgive me here, going and looking up this loser's. Uh, yeah, 2015. He started in Cup. Xfinity ran from 2009. Camping World 2022 is his first full year in there. 11 Canon, so 2011. Okay, so Matt DiBurrito has not won a race in 11 years, so that would be something. A wild card is Josh. So there you go. We got confirmation. It's 11 years. Same time when Tony sold his soul to win that third championship. From there, we're going to move to the Xfinity Series at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. There is history for them. Chase Briscoe won there a couple of years ago when they made their first race at Indianapolis. And so it was a big day for me. It was a very happy day for me. Biggest win in, other than his first Cup win in Chase Briscoe's career, I think. Climbed the fence, did the whole bit. Their history, of course, Cindric and Briscoe and Cindric, the BFFs, are the two winners on this racetrack at Indianapolis Road Course, Indianapolis Grand Prix Circuit, as they call it. So, Josh, who are you looking at? I mean, it's a good field, solid field for this weekend. I think, what is it, 42 for 38. Chastain is with DGM. He did really well for them at Coda. Josh Williams is trying to run the double, running for BJ McLeod in both Cup and Xfinity. Andy Lally will be in the 08 for SS Greenlight. Brad Perez, who I was wearing his shirt last week during both shows, trying to make his Xfinity debut for Carl Long. Preston Pardis making his usual appearances with his dad as his crew chief in for DGM. Mason Filippi, who's been driving for that loser, that cocksucker, maggot moron in the truck series, G2G racing. He'll be able to make the show, at least in these cars. Miguel Paludo will be driving the 88 car. Austin Dillon driving for Brandon Jones, or not Brandon Jones, Brandon Brown. I mean, Austin Dillon sucks on road courses, so the fact that he's able to bring a check kicks Brandon Brown to the curb. Brandon
he's
Brown's
been
going to have
fired
to
too.
make.
He got released, Brandon Brown.
How the hell does he get released from his own team? Is that for real?
Yeah, that's on. I saw that on Reddit earlier. I was gonna say something, but I forgot. And then, yeah, Brandon Brown's not only like, because originally I think they were gonna put him back in the car, the following week after this race, but then now they're also saying that Brandon Brown, has been released from the team.
Let's go, Brandon. There you go.
Yeah, there it is. Frontstretch.com. Brandon Brown likely. Okay, he's not been released, but he's unlikely to return to a full-time role after the road course. So, due to lack of sponsorship, not been been released, but he's basically, he's basically finished as a full-time driver.
Kelly's. So now Kelly. So that the aftermath of that race at Talladega, Kelly Stavis ended her TV career with her trying to go and cover up what they were saying. So she ended her TV career, and she's sexy. She's a good-looking woman, and she ended her career and gave Kimmy Kuhn a shot on TV, which is fine because I like looking at Kimmy Kuhn. But Kelly Stavis was really, really good. Now she has no career. Brandon Brown wins his first career race. Should have been something that could have given him an opportunity to maybe backdoor a Cup Series career, run an Xfinity, whatever. Now he's been fired from his own team. Yeah, that tells you. I could go off on a tangent with that, but when you're getting demoted from the team that has your name on it, and they made a freaking slogan for a whole segment of a population to talk about what's going on in our society, and now you're not even going to have a full-time ride, that is really fucked up. I'll tell you, that ain't good. Yeah. So Brandon Brown's gonna have to make it in on time, for sure. Kligerman is gonna be driving the 35 for Emmerling Gates. I think they're gonna need to make it in on time. Hendrick Motorsports 17 for Alex Bowman has to make it in on time. Chase Briscoe has points in the 07. I figure they'll be in a good position. The 6, Ty Dillon's going to be racing for JD Motorsports. Scott Heckard there in the 5. Bubba Wallace is going to be in the 18 for Joe Gibbs Racing. So a lot of Cup guys. It's a random race where there's a lot of Cup guys. I mean, once we get to the playoffs, there aren't going to be any Cup guys in there. So you have, what is it, 1, 2, 3, 4 guys, but 4 guys, 5, 6 drivers that are going to be in the race on Sunday, racing on Saturday. So that'll be interesting, along with the usual Xfinity suspects. And then AJ Allmendinger has Nutrien Ag Solutions. So if people wanted to question the fact that Nutrien Ag Solutions had a commitment to NASCAR, they just didn't want to be committed to Jeb Burton. They wanted to be committed to somebody that could win races. I'll throw to you, Josh, in regards to the preview for the Xfinity Series, and you can start talking about the Pennzoil 200 for the Cup side as well. As I go and take this deal here.
Yeah, I mean, I think for this race, it's going to be interesting. I mean, I'll go ahead and pick who I'm going to pick here. I'll pick AJ Allmendinger. I mean, it's the very safe pick here. AJ Allmendinger to win. I'm trying to spell his name in the chat. And then wild card. Go with wild card here. Go with it's hard to say because there's a lot of good guys here that could win or finish top 5. But you know what? We'll go with Andy Lally as a wild card because he can pull out a top 10 out of this deal because he's pretty good at road racing, and you know the way that these Xfinity road races go, you can probably find yourself in the top 10 at the end of the day, even with a okay car. So I'm picking Andy Lally as a wild card. Say he's going to finish in the top 10 there. But this should be an interesting race. Last year, of course, we saw the track fall apart in the Cup Series, but there's always a possibility of this happening in Xfinity as well. We'll see if it happens again, but of course, Indianapolis Motor Speedway has a good staff on hand. They probably came up with solutions to find a way for the track to not fall apart this year. So credit to them figuring out a solution last year as as the race was able to finish and everything, but in the Cup Series. But Xfinity, good solid action there. 2 years in a row now that they raced there, and this is going on to their 3rd year racing at the Indianapolis Road Course for Xfinity. So it's a lot of guys here in the Cup Series racing, either just trying to get experience, or they're trying to get practice for the Cup race on Sunday. Especially a lot of guys that are in contention for the playoffs. You got Ross Chastain, 2 wins on the year already in Cup, and he needs to possibly get a 3rd one, improve his playoff seeding, and he needs to be able to do well at the track he's only been to one time. Parker Kligerman, he could also be a good wild card won the Mid Ohio race a couple of weeks ago in the Truck Series, and he's a sim racing guy. So he's probably spending a lot of time this week on iRacing with the new IndyCar Grand Prix NASCAR road course layout. So should be interesting there. Alex Bowman, kind of at the bottom of the totem pole at Hendrick Motorsports in terms of points this year, so he might need to win this weekend. So got to get extra practice on the road course there for him. Same deal for Bubba Wallace, Chase Briscoe, even guys like Ty Dillon, Austin Dillon. Well, Austin Dillon needs it too, but Ty Dillon not quite as high as his brother in the points, and a total long shot to make the playoffs at this point. Would have to basically win and then hope for something, later in the year. But all these guys need practice and experience at Indianapolis road course on the Cup side. So what better way to do it than to go and bushwhack in the Xfinity Series race? So that's going to be interesting. You also got IndyCar drivers racing in the Xfinity race. You got Santino Ferrucci possibly doing double duty if Joseph Newgarden is not ready to go. You got Sage Karam raced here before in IndyCars. You got AJ Allmendinger, of course, former open wheel guy. Never raced on the road course in IndyCar, but of course, the natural road racing experience plays into his hands there. So yeah, got a lot of guys here this weekend with good road course racing experience, and it actually could be for a very interesting race here on Saturday.
Yeah, you picked. So just to recap here, you picked AJ, and then Andy Lally. All right, so AJ W Lally is wild card for Josh. Xfinity. All right. For me, the winner, I'm going to be a homer. Pick Chase Briscoe. Since if Cole Custer can win that fucking car, I'm sure Chase Briscoe can win that car. He needs it. Johnny Klossmeyer doesn't know how to hit a hot nail through snow. His strategy sucks balls. And I wish they'd make a crew chief change, and they'd take that crew chief off. They'd get what's his name off the '98 team. What do you call Richard Boswell? Just bring him up the Cup, because Briscoe and him had a good relationship. They built it, and they built a team together, and they should have won a championship. They won 9 races together. You would think that between Tony and Greg, they could figure that out, but obviously they can't. Briscoe needs a win. It would make him very happy. It could be a great day for him. Qualify well in the Cup car, go and win another race at Indianapolis for Bobby Dotter would be a great look for them. That's my pick for the win. Wild card, I'm going to go and look at somebody who is a Xfinity regular. The wild card is I'm going to go chalk. I'm going to go for my favorite. Josh Berry is not a road racer. I'm doing this strictly because he's driving for the best team in the Xfinity Series in Junior Motorsports, the next team that's going to likely get charters in the Cup Series. And if he can go and gain some points here on this road course, it'd be a good precursor to the Roval, which I would assume is somewhere within the playoff for the Xfinity Series. I'll just go and bring it up now, just out of that's the cutoff race for the round of 12. So if you're able to go and actually do well here, but there's one more road course before the Charlotte Roval. It's Watkins Glen. So it's something to see. I think Josh Berry, he's the sneaky one. I picked him at the start of the year, and it wasn't just because he's my favorite Xfinity driver. He's the one guy that's actually got a good head on his shoulders. He doesn't do stupid shit. He wants this bad. He's not a cocksucker. He actually is a legitimately really good race car driver, and he's a really good guy.
Yeah.
I mean, he might use somebody up. He might use somebody up this weekend. I mean, what the hell? At the end of the day, he's got enough good karma going for him. He could use somebody up and get a W. But I don't think he will. I think he's going to get a top 10, and that top 10 is going to help him in the points. So I'm going chalk. I mean, Josh has the favorite, the guy who won the Cup Series race last year. I have a guy who should have won the Cup Series race last year and won the Xfinity Series race a couple of years ago. AJ Allmendinger has won more road races in Xfinity Series history than anybody. So I figure one of us is going to get a hit on that one.
Yeah. Josh Berry's a solid pick, though. Yeah.
I venture to say that one of our truck picks is going to hit too. So let's get into the Pennzoil 200, though. The Cup Series race. And before, Daniel and Kenzie, Daniel Hemrick and Kenzie Rustin Hemrick are expecting their second child. So congrats to them. I love Kenzie Rustin. So their second child, play the audio. Oh, they're gonna have a boy. Oh, God bless. So now, yeah, you could see the smile on Daniel Hemrick's face and the shock in Kenzie's face, and Ren is completely uninterested. So they'll have one of each. So good for them. Love the Hemricks. I mean, I always had a thing for Kenzie Rustin, and I've been a fan of Daniel Hemrick for a while. Not just because he's friends with Bubba and Blaney, because he's a pretty good race car driver. Verizon 200 entry list, 38 for 40 spots. Josh Williams, as I mentioned, will be driving for BJ McLeod in the both series. He runs for him in the Xfinity, but he'll also be running the 78 car on Sunday, making his second career start. Bilicki will be driving the 77. Cody Ware in the 51. Nothing else really changes. Hopefully Kurt Busch will be fine, be back. I'm not sure about the crew chief situation for the Petty GMS. Blake Harris, of course, won't be there for Michael McDowell. Loris Henzemans will be driving the 27. The 26 car, the 27 will be a Ford. The 26 will be a Toyota. Josh Reaume will be the crew chief. So he'll be doing double duty. He'll actually be crew chief. He'll be driving, and then he'll be crew chiefing on Sunday. And he'll be crew chiefing for former Formula One driver Danny and Red Bull driver development guy Danny Kvyat will be making his NASCAR debut this weekend at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. I brought up the fact that Kimi Räikkönen is going to be driving for the Project 91 team, and I blew people's minds on the Grid Talk podcast yesterday. But Danny Kvyat making his Cup Series debut this weekend is pretty big too. Not to the same extent, of course, because of course Kimi Räikkönen, great driver, champion, etc., etc. The personality of a block of ice, I know what I'm doing, shut the fuck up, the whole thing. Danny Kvyat's kind of in that same realm, but he never won anything in Formula One. Making his Cup Series debut, came out of nowhere. It's kind of crazy. The defending race winner, AJ Allmendinger, of course, is back. driving the 16 car. Rick, the 15 cars being driven by Joey Hand. Had a great run at Road America. If they had a legitimate pit crew and they had a legitimate team, I think Joey Hand could contend this weekend. And then that's the rest of it. I'll go here. I'll start. For me, Toyotas have been off on the road courses. Chevys have the advantage. I should pick Clyde. I should. But I won't. I'm not going to pick Clyde. I am going to pick. I'm going to pick Daniel Suarez. I'm going to pick Nacho Libre to win this race and get his second win of the season and lock himself for sure into the playoffs. We'll have a piñata smash. We'll have whatever other crap that they do for his celebrations. Daniel Suarez gets a second career Cup Series win at Indianapolis. Now, my wild card pick, I think, relative to Cup Series performance, is a wild card pick. Well, actually, no. I might have to change it. Just give me a second. So, the wild card pick, I'm going to go with Brad Keselowski. He's 30th in points. At the end of the day, he needs to win. And RFK has been good on road courses.
Yeah, they have. Chris Buescher's been running well there too.
So, and that's why, that's part of it. Chris Buescher has had great pace, and he's shown great pace in recent weeks. You would venture to say that RFK needs to win here, Richmond, Watkins Glen, Daytona. I mean, whatever it is, the only way they're really going to make it is if they win and they get help. So why not at this point, the way things are going? What are you thinking, Josh?
Well, I just put it right there. I think Kyle Larson is going to win this race, and it's it's a pretty good pick, but he also has not won since California back at the second race of the year. This year, he's only had one victory on the year, and should have won this race a year ago at Indianapolis Road Course. Remember, they're trying to bring up the talk of how he's having a really great season. This is where kind of the steam started to pick up, and NBC went on the hype train right around this time. Robin Miller, right before he passed away, he was talking about Kyle Larson needing to be in the Indianapolis 500 this year in 2022, which of course did not happen. But Kyle Larson should have won this race last year. He's been really good on road courses since joining Hendrick. He's a former Rolex 24 winner as well with Ganassi. So I'm going to go with him winning this weekend. And then, of course, wild card. I had this typed up while you're before you started talking, and I'm picking Joey Hand, our good friends at Rick Ware Racing. The original grifters themselves, pick them to be a wild card, get at least a top 20, top 15 finish at Indianapolis, which I think is very possible, given how, especially if the race goes the way it kind of did last year with the track falling apart at the end. We'll see what happens.
And considering how good he did at Road America, making the top 10 shootout as a guy who doesn't run these cars at all, his amount of driving has dropped a lot from his heyday when he was driving GT cars, driving prototypes, driving everything. Ford having him as a guy is huge. It kind of speaks to the fact that I figure Ford's going to be in the whatever LMDH situation eventually. To have Joey Hand just sitting there, I guess being a coach and being a road racing specialist, they have the GT4, they have a GT3 Mustang thing. There's got to be something else. They've missed the boat in so many ways for so many years. They might make up for it if Kyle Busch decides to go and take over the 10 car, but we'll see with that. Indy cars will be racing at Indy Road Course. Second race at Indy Road Course this year, as per their usual. Part of their tight swing here till the end of the season. Indy GP. Then they'll be racing in Nashville next weekend. They'll take a break, race at Gateway, and then take another break before the West Coast swing to end their season. The IndyCar series, they've been racing there since 2014. The active drivers there, I'm bringing up here on Racing Reference just out of curiosity. It's a Penske benefit, honestly. People who, it's a willpower benefit. And, Pagano used to drive for Penske. So Power and Pagano are the two best drivers there. After that, you have a lot of guys who've had one win, including Newgarden. Herta, of course, won in May to start the month of May. Scott Dixon, I think, won there last year in this race. So I'll throw to you first, Josh. What are you thinking for this weekend, this Saturday's race at Indianapolis Road Course?
Well, I think it should be a lot different than how it went in May. Of course, with all the weather happening and everything, it was a cold nerd's race there, but I think it's going to be a lot different this time. I think it's going to be a Penske car, but probably not the number 2 of Joseph Newgarden, just because betting against the injury or health status there, just to be safe. But I'm gonna go with Will Power winning this weekend and closing in on Marcus Ericsson for the points lead at Indianapolis Road Course. It's gonna be an interesting race, I think. I think we're going to see a lot of action in this race, and of course, given that Cup and Xfinity are going to be there as well, you have to think that there's going to be a issue with the tires matching up. We've kind of seen it before. I feel like last year there's between the Indy cars with their Firestone tires and Cup on Goodyear tires and Xfinity on Goodyear tires. There might be some issues there, but we'll see what happens. But yeah, Will Power as a wild card or winner, and I think as a wild card at this race. Looking at the results from previous races, go with Christian Lundgaard. Made his debut at this race last year. He's been pretty solid on the road courses, I feel like, and definitely think he can possibly go out and get a top 12, top 10 run here at Indianapolis Grand Prix. Last year started 4th, finished in 12th, so could be a good outing for the rookie driver this year.
Yeah, it's a good pick there, Christian Lundgaard. He has experience there. He's raced there twice. In regards to me, for this race on Saturday, you pick the one that's likely to win. And if Newgarden doesn't race, then it's definitely going to be Willpower. I'm gonna pick Scott Dixon to go and win, and because frankly he needs to. He won his 52nd race. This would be an historic moment if he does win at Indianapolis. He gave away the Indianapolis 500, which would have been his 52nd win, tying Mario Andretti, which would have been, there would be all kinds of talk and all that. He gave away the Indy 500. So Scott Dixon to win as my W, and Graham Ray Hall is my wild card. Because the guy has, I don't know how many times he's had a chance to win Indy Road Course, trying to do alternative strategies, trying to, like, that MFer wants to win at Indianapolis. If he wins on Saturday, I'm sure he's going to freak out. He's going to take that little ball of dough that is his daughter. What the hell's her name? I'm forgetting her name. Not Piper. That's fucking Harvick's kid. His daughter, since Courtney is pregnant with their second kid, who I think is a boy. Why am I forgetting? Give me a second here. I feel so bad. Oh, look at those things. Shit. Instagram's a great thing, I'll tell you. Yeah, give me a second here. Yeah, Graham Rahall's my wild card. He's wanted to win there forever. Trying to live up to your dad, who won one Indy 500, but is probably remembered just as much for failing to qualify for the Indy 500 after winning the championship. It's kind of crazy. Indianapolis will do that to you. Graham Rahal has finished on the podium at Indianapolis for the 500, but has also made a life of struggling at the racetrack. First, there you go. Harlan, there you go. That's what I needed. Harlan, their daughter, who's like a ball of dough, probably would go and sit there. She'd be part of the prop in regards to their victory lane celebration. As I'm holding a prop of the Colorado Avalanche Stanley Cup champion official puck here, I have it as part of my desk merch, along with my Tony Stewart IndyCar championship helmet that he had when he won for John Menard. My desk stuff is building because everything else is blurred. Because I also have my Rico Abreu wing from before we blurred everything, autographed. I'm wearing my Rico Abreu shirt, my sponsor shirt, which essentially is what was on that wing. And then I got the hockey puck today, and then I got the picture today of the Stanley Cup champion Colorado Avalanche. That's me.
It's a good picture there.
It is a good picture. I'm like, why the hell did they send a whole entire box for a hockey puck? And it sounded like Don Rickles, and then they had that picture in there too, so it makes sense. You got one more to go. We got Formula One to go before we get into the end of this show. Hungarian Grand Prix. a track where Lewis Hamilton's won 8 times in his career. But it would be hard for him to go and get that win. I'm trying to think, if he doesn't win in this spot, can he win anywhere else? They're not going to race in Russia. They already canceled that race. I thought they canceled that race.
Yeah, they canceled Russia at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, but that's still on Racing Reference, so it's kind of weird. Yeah, active drivers. What the heck? Someone wanted active drivers only. Lewis Hamilton has won 8 times there, 13 top 5s and 14 top 10s in 15 races and 8 poles. Verstappen has no wins there, but I think he's going to change that on Sunday. He'll get his first win at Hungary and help his racist, sexist, misogynistic fans go and get lathered up to get into the mid-season break with a victory. I'm not sure he's going to win the pole, but I figure he's going to win the race. By wild card for the race is Fred Alonso. So that's win, wild card, F1. Phil. That's my picks. Alonso, of course, won his first career race there. He's finished in the top 10. He's run there 18 times, 14 top 10s, 11 top 5s. Of course, the 1 win, 2 poles in his career at Hungary, and then made his cars wide as a Brinks truck to prevent Lewis getting through, which would have been a way for Lewis to go and win the World Championship, but Mercedes fucked up the strategy. So, how about you, Josh? What are you thinking for the Hungarian Grand Prix?
Well, I mean, it's not really much different from you. Also picking Max Verstappen to win. It's not a very hard pick, and can't go against the trend right now, which is Max Verstappen winning in Formula One. Hard to see Ferrari with the way that things have been going for them. I mean, they could have the pace, but just don't see it right now. And plus, Hungaroring is very tough to pass around there, so expect it to be a very front-running Grand Prix with Verstappen leading the majority of the laps. But wild card, go with last year's winner, Esteban Ocon. Of course, could be a factor like that again, but we'll see. But Alpine's been hanging in there pretty good this year. Fernando Alonso's been getting the most out of his car, and for the most part, his teammate has been as well, and Esteban Ocon. So, you pick Fernando, I'll go with the teammate in Esteban Ocon. So, expect a Alpine weekend and Red Bull weekend this weekend here at the Hungaroring at Formula One.
I think if it went the way it should have, I should have picked Ocon and you would have picked Alonso, because I don't like Alonso. But I guess I'm pretty laid back at this point in the evening here as we record this show. So I picked L Plan somehow, some way.
It's part of the plan.
Yeah, I guess it is. Let's get into football talk before we get into your sim segment, Josh. Fact is, we're in training camp. Jacksonville Jaguars. Everybody is there. A lot of positive vibes going on there. A lot of free agent signings you guys have had. Trevor Lawrence. It's funny because I'm involved in a dynasty league with Vic, who won my league last year, one of my best friends for life. And he bought into my dynasty league He's my co-owner and co-whatever manager. And we have Trevor Lawrence. And we had a discussion last week, actually. And I'm like, we're talking about quarterbacks. We're talking about, because we have the first pick in the redraft for this year. And we also have Dak Prescott. But I'm like, we need to keep Trevor Lawrence because the guy is a generational talent. He's like Peyton Manning. He's like Andrew Luck. I guess what I'm asking or saying is, since we're talking about football, we're going to talk about football as the season goes on. We're going to have that. We're going to sprinkle it in along with our motorsports content. What are you seeing, at least early? I mean, it's way too early to really get into the semantics. We haven't seen anything on the field, but what are the returns in regards to what Trevor Lawrence is saying to the media and what other people that are major players within the organization are saying to the media regarding what he brings to the table, since it's essentially a reset in year 2 for the guy that you invested everything in with a number 1 overall pick last year and then got another number 1 overall pick. And you got 2 first rounders last year or this year. Got defensive player. I forget who your other guy was this draft in the first round, but you got 2 first rounders in this draft too, along with last draft, and you're getting Travis Etienne back, who seems to be doing really well.
Yeah, well, I haven't really seen too much of what they've said about. People have talked about Trevor Lawrence in terms of quotes and things, but I saw a highlight with uh, Trevor Lawrence throwing a nice deep pass to Laquan Treadwell in training camp today. Pretty good pass. Looks like he's got good accuracy on the ball, good touch, and Laquan Treadwell is able to take in the pass and would have been probably a good play if it was a real game. But I expect. I'm not sure what to expect this year, but it looks like Doug Peterson going to be treating everybody in the room like adults. That's going to be the theme this year. Of course, last year, Urban Meyer and the clown show circus that he brought to town, not there anymore. So back to real football here this season in Jacksonville. I think it's going to be interesting on defense, especially with the linebacker setup. And they got Trayvon Walker, of course, on the defensive line, and then they're going to have Devin Lloyd, that's their other first-round pick, playing linebacker, and looking forward to see how he plays. I think he's going to be a real good contributor. Going to be a probably immediate impact player there. I think, in terms of the defense. And as far as other players, James Robinson, of course, last year tore his Achilles in Week 15 against the Jets. Going to be interesting to see how it comes back from the injury, but thankfully he is not on the PUP list to open up training camp. So it looks like his rehab is going well, and looks like things are going pretty solid right now. Of course, this year fans cannot go to training camp. They're holding it at a high school in Jacksonville because they're doing construction on the facilities there and doing improvements this year. So it's closed off the fans, unlike in years past. But looks like so far they got good highlights. Trevor Lawrence today was 100% on his throws, I think, during his time under pads, and I don't know if they're not wearing pads until July 31st, but under center, taking the snaps. So he's looked pretty good so far, and it's gonna be interesting. So looking forward to seeing what Trevor's progress is this year, especially as we go through the rest of the training camp preseason and head into Week 1 against Washington in Washington D.C. there. So hopefully this year it's a whole lot better than last year for sure.
I figured it will be because you actually have a football coach and a guy who I just want to see him run Philly. That if Trevor runs Philly, it'll bring a memory back from when I was half or 3/4 in the bag in Minnesota when Nick Foles ran that play, and Trey Burton threw it to him in Minnesota when they were part. That was part of what helped the Philadelphia Eagles win that Super Bowl. I just want to see Trevor Lawrence run Philly. That would go and really bring it back. But for me, 49ers, Trey Lance, this is his time. He's my dude. Fact of the matter is, I mean, why the hell do they not have anything? Yeah, the 5 rules of training camp. Like, why the hell did training? Why don't have anything from today? It's whatever. Essentially, it's Trey Lance taking over and doing his thing. It's gonna be his team. Kyle Shanahan has to build a different offense for him, similar to what RG3 had, but the difference is Trey Lance is smarter, and Trey Lance has more talent and has more arm talent, etc., etc. The sky's the limit. Debo doesn't have a contract yet. Figure he will. MAGA boy Bosa doesn't have a contract yet. He's gonna get one. It's the same way as the Niners do their thing every year. They go and break off one of their offensive guys, one of their defensive guys. They break off Debo and they break off Nick Bosa. Chilling. Fact is, aren't going to talk about the LA Rams. They backdoored that fucking Super Bowl. And they keep on buying players, same way fucking LA Dodgers buy players. Eventually, it's going to catch up to them. They got 2 great wide receivers in Allen Robinson. Sorry, Josh. And then Cooper Kupp. But, at some point, it's got to catch up to them. Buffalo Bills are a great team. My boy, Professor J, my mentor, number 1 pick in the Fall Brawl League. I know who he's going to pick, but I'm not going to say it here. I'm not even going to tell Josh. I'm not telling anybody. I already know who he's going to pick. But and I think people would figure it out if you kind of pick up on the context clues. But fact of the matter is, Buffalo's up there, Rams are up there. You start looking at teams, the Niners are there. They're going to be in a position. If Trey Lance can stay healthy, they keep him healthy, and they give him a shot to play. Because you give Kyle Shanahan a possible generational talent. He hasn't really had that. But then, of course, Kyle Shanahan's very conservative in his play calling, and conservative with who he gives the reins to. Well, you got a guy now. And you gave up a lot of capital. You and Lynch gave up a lot of capital to get that guy. So let him do work. If you let that happen, get to go and see this visual on our YouTube page. Get to see this. You get this on our YouTube page. Grip Strip Podcast. Josh handles it. You get to see the visual I just have right here. Dollar bills, yo. That's what it is. Straight value. Trey Lance, the Niners offense is value. It's value in fantasy. It's value when it counts.
Yeah, we'll see if Kyle Shanahan chokes it away like he did in the Super Bowl 28-3.
He's a good choker. He knows how to choke it. I've seen him do it twice. It pissed me off when he did it with Atlanta, and it sure as fuck pissed me off after I had plenty of drinks and Vic was sitting here in right on this couch to my left while I was sitting in my recliner when we choked away that Super Bowl to fucking Kermit the Frog and that other bitch ass motherfucker, um, the hell's his name, Travis Kelsey, and that woman beater Tyreek Hill when they should have won that fucking Super Bowl and it made my life. I wouldn't give a shit. If they had won that Super Bowl, I wouldn't give a shit. Same way as I don't give a shit about baseball. I'd be free. Because now I'd be truly free. Yankees freed me up a long time ago. Football is my favorite ball of the ball sports. They'd won that, been good. Hockey just bailed me out. I love hockey, and it just hasn't been on TV the way. But I was able to watch it, and I was able to have it, and I love the Colorado Avalanche. And if I lived in Colorado, I probably would be dead because I had celebrated too hard. But it is what it is. We'll see what happens with football. We're going to be talking about it for the next few months. So, Josh, let's talk about the sim segment. Let's go and see what you're doing over there and what you're seeing and what you're planning on doing after you come back from vacation.
Yeah, well, first, there's some news in the sim world in iRacing. Past weekend, they had the iRacing Spa 24 hours, and there's a lot of controversy there because the top split of that race, they had a lot of people using the grass to cool off their tires, and they supposed to incur an off-track penalty, but I guess there was a glitch or something where it didn't. And so while they were on the straights, they had the left sides or the right sides in the grass, on the straights in Spa, and they were able to use it to cool off the tires to get a good qualifying lap. Um, I don't know how exactly the qualifying format worked, but I think like they had like a warm up lap or two, and then they were able to the last qualifying lap go out and put a burner or whatever and qualify on pole or qualify well, and then they did it in the race. There was pictures on Twitter. You can look it up. Pictures of the cars touching the grass and putting their tires in the grass to cool off the tires and everything. And it's a glitch in the game. And then there's a lot of controversy over it. A lot of people were complaining, talking about it's a big joke, and it's not it's not the way it should be, and things like that. And then the I forget what I think yeah, Greg West, he's the iRacing, like one of the managers of iRacing or whatever. I think he runs like the IndyCar stuff on iRacing. But they basically said if they people keep doing that, they're going to ban them. So looks like hopefully they got that handled. But yeah, it's a pretty poor demonstration of the product. But I guess yeah, it happens sometimes. But then I guess in racing you got to find a way to get an advantage. But when everybody's doing it, it's like when everybody started modifying the body and NASCAR pit stops. Remember when they started flaring out the fenders out wide and it got crazy, like in 2014 on the left rear fender or in front of the left rear fender to try to increase more downforce, and on the right side, or like when they blow out the tires, everybody started blowing out the tires after victory lane to hide whatever they're cheating up. Yeah, sort of like that, where everybody starts doing it, it gets ridiculous. But we'll see. Hopefully, they fix that issue and it doesn't happen again at Spa. But it was an interesting story to follow on the iRacing side throughout the weekend. And then, of course, the other good news on iRacing is that they finally upgraded the Indianapolis road course. So they finally put in the correct layout. It's not the old Formula One layout. It's now the new one with the backstretch chicane on there now that exploded last year during the NASCAR race, and then you have the new inner loop before the front straight. So that's a pretty interesting layout. Tried it a couple times last night. Download, or well, it's already there. I didn't have to purchase the track or anything, but already there. Indianapolis, it's road course pretty hard. honestly, you really have to master the braking points. If you miss the braking point, you brake in too late, you basically miss the corner. So there's a lot of laps were spent, over, braking too hard into the quarter, try not to go off track. A couple of times where, yeah, in that last inner loop before the front straight, I missed the corner and had to go onto the extra runoff that they have. That's like basically it serves as like an extra turn and extend my lap by about like 6 seconds or whatever. So that was interesting. And then there was other laps where me and the car in front of me both missed that corner and had to go on the runoff area. But it's pretty interesting. Uh, by the end, I felt a little bit more confident, and you just have to be very careful out applying the throttle in first gear, off the corner exit. So, or in second gear, because you don't really want to go full throttle off corner exit. You really have to manage the throttle and play around with it because there's still a lot of power and you can spin out. It's not quite like IndyCar, where it's pretty much straight up, and you're doing a lot of gear changes here on the IndyCar side, whereas NASCAR, the only time you're really shifting gears is on on the straights and then going downshifting into the corners off of the straights. So it's pretty fun, but it's a real challenge. So try to continue that throughout the week. I think this week, if I have time, do Indianapolis road course. Maybe regular Indianapolis if I have the time. Um, Talladega, possibly on the NASCAR 87 side. I think that one's open this week. So we'll go out and try those tracks, and then whatever else I decide to do. So yeah, that's what I got for the iRacing side this week. And of course, you can follow at Twitch TV/usailor2. That's where all those streams, when I stream, will be posted. Maybe you have one or two streams this week. The rest of this week, we'll see. And then of course going on vacation, so I'll be out of the house next week. But other than that, I'll of course always try to stream whenever I can. And then also to close the show, being that of course again Twitch TV/usailor2. Go watch that, and then the Twitter page for me is at JB Huffine. You can follow me there. See what I'm thinking about. Seeing what I think about the Jags, the racing, NASCAR, IndyCar stuff. My other interests, like the finance world, we got the Fed's going to raise rates to 75% tomorrow. It's probably going to happen, and then we'll see what the markets decide to do. Pretty interested to see how that happens. Then also for the YouTube page, that's at Grip Strip Podcast, and go watch that and see all our YouTube videos. Of course, see our YouTube video with Ralph Shaheen, where we had him on for an hour and got to ask him questions, and he told us stories from his career. So it was a good show to watch. And of course, Joe Passero was on there too. So go watch that and see all our other content on that page. And of course, follow our Twitter and all our other streams where we have our audio. So I'll let you go ahead and close out the deal on your end, Phil.
Yeah, we're gonna have to throw in a sub. Have to go and call in reliever for Josh, who does a great job on the YouTube side. So now I'm gonna have to figure out how to go and do the audio and the video. So that's gonna be great. Might need some help with that. So you can go and send me that information there. You can follow me at Philip G. Matthew on Twitter. You can follow us at Gripstrip Pod on Twitter. Gripstrip Podcast is on YouTube. You can find us wherever podcasts are distributed. We're basically anywhere. We're main podcast platforms: Apple, Amazon. We're Podbean is our distributing app, etc., etc. You can find us. If you want to listen to us, you're going to find us. The people that do listen to us, thank you. Let other people know. I got friends I bowl with. I got friends that will listen to me. Give us positive reviews. Wish they would go and do that on the apps itself and get us out there. Trying to promote Keon Crawford Go and bring that up. I have to go and manage. Yeah. Manage your Google account. Go and bring that up. I got tickets for Pocono from someone who works through a company, Map 360 Collective out of New York City. They're connected with the NBC NASCAR deal, NBC and USA. Sent tickets. I know that they're trying to hook up Josh for Daytona. I think Richmond is also part of the deal, and Watkins Glen. Have to go and talk to her about that, but I was trying to talk to Joe about going to Watkins Glen and another friend of mine. Richmond might be a good way for us to meet up and go and have a real party. Daytona for the closeout. I think you'd be able to make that one during the preseason. I think that's week 3 of the preseason for football, NFL, and college football opener. But something to see in regards to that. There are campaigns and prize packs to look at. Map 360 Co., Map 360 Collective. So go on map360co.com, follow them, or go and hit them up. Let them know you listen to Gripster Podcast. We're connected with them. Good people. Send tickets. For me, I couldn't make it because I wasn't trying to die. You want to live so you can go and keep on watching racing. That's what I'm trying to do. So for Josh, I'm Phil. Gonna miss you next week, brother. We're gonna have Joe Passero on, filling in. Might have another guest. Make it a interesting show there. We got the new picks channel, so we get to go and follow up and see who got things right. More than likely, Josh gets them right because he's the brains of the operation. I'm just a bullshit artist. But the fact of the matter is, we have fun here on the Gripster Podcast. We thank you for listening. And we'll see you next week for episode. What is it? I'm just saying, episode 127 next week. And go over all things NASCAR, IndyCar, Formula One going into their summer break. There's some interesting content that'll be coming up during the summer break for Formula One. Might be a co-collaboration. So stay tuned for that. IndyCar is going to be running out. NASCAR is going to be running out. And other motorsport series, Formula E is about to finish. MotoGP is going to be back. So, a lot to look forward to. So, thank you for listening to Gripster Podcast. Thanks, Josh, as always, for being my right-hand guy. I'm Phil. Thank you, as always. Take care. Goodbye.